Yeah. You want to start your presentation about that?
Yeah, do you want me to stand up there, or do you want to sit down?
I'll give a kind of a brief introduction for you. The reason he's doing this presentation today is the tasers that we currently are carrying are being phased out. So if we need any batteries or anything like that, they're quit making the stuff. We're not gonna be able to get them fixed, repaired, or anyways. Axon is the only game in town, so they changed these models and kind of forced departments into their wheel, I guess. But the next taser is that they're going to is a taser 10, and what Chris is going to talk about is the two different options there is to buy them. One is to buy them outright, which doesn't come with the cartridges, the holsters, and the training, and the mess of stuff that they're getting agencies to sign in on all this stuff. They're kind of bullying cities into buying this lease program. So I'm just gonna have Chris go through the differences of what comes with them, why we need them, and should only be a few minutes, so. Okay, thanks, Chris.
Move up here real quick, though. So like Chief said, so right now we carry the X26P, which is what's on me right here. They stopped servicing them back in 2017. So, which is not good, because if they're not backing it, they're not backing us, we're not backing the product. We can still get batteries and cartridges, although they made an X7 a few years ago, or excuse me, a Taser 7 a few years ago, and they just came out with the Taser 10 recently. In August, I went to Woods Cross, I went through your instructor course again, for every Taser platform. So the 10 is the best Taser on the market, for a few reasons. I'll get into that, I'll get into the price after. So Taser 10s, they're pretty versatile. The X26P is one of the downfalls because it's still a primitive design back then. We have one cartridge on our Taser X26P, so if we deploy it, there's two probes in there. Both those probes have to connect to complete a neuromuscular capacitation, or NMI, which is the goal of having Taser. The two goals of Taser are a change in behavior is what we're going for as far as de-escalation, but then also neuromuscular incapacitation if we need to deploy them and use them to gain compliance. Problem with having one of those is if one of the probes misses, then we don't get a circuit, and now we have to go through a different tool, which could result in a lot more use of force issues. If it's a instance as far as shooting or having to go hands-on and reasonably taken into under arrest and then affecting arrest. The other is if both probes hit, but one becomes dislodged, then that circuit to achieve NMI can't be completed because now you've broken the circuit. So once we deploy that, if we miss, put it back, and you got to go hands-on. The XPPM is extended performance power battery. We do have some that have an extended handle that allow for one more. Which is kind of hard because when your amygdala hijacks your brain and you're going to fight or freeze, your fine motor skills kind of go out the window. It's gross motor skills at that point. So it can be hard to manipulate taking the Taser out, putting the cartridge out, putting a new one in, and trying to deploy it. It has a limited range, so we carry the green cargo bays, and those are a maximum range of 24 feet, which is pretty decent distance, but not great, because there's a 21-foot rule of knives. So someone inside 21 feet can do a lot of damage real quickly and close that gap. So 24 feet is not much better. It does have a drive stun capability, so you can take be able to drive stun, you have to take that out, take the cartridge out, and then apply it. And you have limited options to apply that. I've been part of Taser deployments here in other agencies, and doing a drive stun is not very useful. It's just not a good way to go. So. The Taser 10s, they're built a little differently. They have an interface and they have 10 cartridges. So instead of having just one cartridge, they have 10 individual cartridges. So you have to deploy 2 cartridges to complete a circuit to achieve the neuromuscular capacitation, or NMI. And so their maximum range doubles the X26P. So you go from 24 feet all the way out to 45 feet. We went to the instructor course in August. We actually had a max effective range of being on target at 42 feet. That's pretty significant. You know, it doubles just the distance from us and potential threats. Other than that, it doesn't have dry summon capability. So you have 10 cartridges, and so you can deploy on multiple targets if needed, or multiple people. If you have 2 people will come at you, you can hit two darts, and it can achieve and align both targets. And so we don't have to reload. Usually after someone rides lightning for 5 seconds, they don't want to do it again. I've been tased twice in my career. I'm weird, I like doing it, so I just like the way psychologically how it feels, right? And so the TI training similar downstairs in RPD, we have a safe in there, that platform that's compatible with that virtual training. Right now, or the simulator, those are Taser 10s, and so we already have some equipment that's compatible with the current equipment that we're using for our simulator. Other than that, you have a couple different things. So the package that they do, so a handle is what it's referred to. So a single handle for a Taser 10 from 2024 to 2025, just a range out there, $1,900 to $2,300 per handle. That's not cartridges, that's not training, that's not certifications, that's not anything else. It's just per the handle and per the Taser. It's so for us for 9 is what we would need. We'd $20,000 out the door just for the handle itself. So the way they broke this down, the reps broke it down, it's basically an all-inclusive thing. So it included 10 Taser handles, duty gear. We have to have holsters for those. Cartridges, they would give us 140 live cartridges, 70 halt cartridges. They're also supplying something called a halt suit that is used for RBTs, or reality-based training scenarios. So someone can throw this big old baddie suit on, looks like a bear suit, and you can deploy training cartridges into that, and they're designed to stick. So it gets our officers into scenario-based training. It's more practical, right? They do offer a VR simulator, so virtual reality simulator, which we use during the instructor course. Pretty cool, because there's a ton, like our simulator, there's a ton of different scenarios that you can use for VR. So that would be included. They include a frame, like a targeted frame. If you've been down in our training room lately, you've probably seen one there. It's green and yellow. For me to certify people on Taser, they have to deploy 2 cartridges on that. So they'll apply it, and for recertifications every year, we have to deploy 2 cartridges on that in the preferred target areas. And so they supply another one of those targets, core bracket docking station, rechargeable batteries, like I said, VR software, licensing, data analytics. They refresh and update every time you dock them. It'll refresh and it'll charge battery, batteries last for 30 days. You can charge a battery once, and then it lasts 30 days, and then you need to recharge every 30 days. They're also doing VR instructor certification. Like I said, they're providing 5 instructorships. I'm already an instructor on every platform of Taser there are, so I would allow for 5 other, basically half our department, to be certified instructors for Taser. So if we're doing trainings, we're having schedule conflicts, it's not just me that does Taser or could do Taser. It gives more variety for our department officers that want to grow and add to their skill set. Unlimited duty cartridges replacement program. It basically locks in. So the way they've done this is it locks in. They've done over 120-month programs, so 10 year program is what they've proposed. And so with that, the way that breaks down is the total cost is $100,753. And then it breaks down to about $10,053 every year for 10 years. And that's the most effective way, the most efficient way to do this, the bundle that they propose, because it actually saves us about $59,000 over that 10 years as well. So we're saving quite a bit of money by bundling it.
But it's a 10-year commitment.
It's a 10-year commitment, correct. That's the way they propose it. That doesn't mean we can't just say, is there a better discount or is there a better deal if we just were to buy it outright, so we're not tied into this 10-year long commitment. And so there's benefits of doing it because it's all-inclusive bundle, but the way they proposed it is 10 years. It's $10,000 a year for those 10 years. The first payment's like $218. So if we were to do that, first payment, it'd in February, they would ship out everything that we need in March. So projected to ship, I think it's like March 16th is the soonest they could have our department supplied and fully ready to go. Except it's batteries, tasers, cartridges, training cartridges, all the licensing, all the VR stuff, all those things, the Hall suit and everything. And so, in a quick nutshell, that's kind of what we're doing. Because, like Chief said, they're phasing out tasers, and so really our two options going forward is the Taser 7 or Taser 10. But the Taser 10 is the best thing on the market now. If they do create something better in the future, they'll automatically replace our handles as well. If we do that 10-year. If we deploy any cartridges, they'll send us new ones. So they'll constantly and continuously replace and send us new stuff as well through the process.
Do we have to pay for the new ones as they come?
No, so
Okay, it's included in
yeah,
that.
so it's kind of grandfathered in. So if they come up with something new, they'll just swap them out as they go.
So what they'll do, this price is for 9 handles. They'll send out 10 handles. You always have to have you always have a spare. Because
Right.
one breaks, then you can send one back. You already have one. I guess the question for council is to think about, and obviously we're not going to have an answer today, is with the whole program, everything, it gives you everything, all the training and all the stuff that you need. And this is the training program that Taser wants you to follow, so that they'll help in a lawsuit if something's caused by Taser. Harrisville, we don't even have one Taser deployment a year. It's a tool that we need in case we need it, but for what they're throwing in my mind is all the free taser, or all the cartridges are replaced. Well, I mean, we shoot more cartridges in training than ever in the field. Our officers just we don't have Taser deployments. So I don't feel comfortable making a decision just going for the handles and skipping the training stuff, because that creates liability. So that's where I would ask council to decide where they feel comfortable.
So have you ever thought of using the Buford Husser method? You know what that is?
I do know.
Grover, do you know?
Say it one more time.
Sheriff Buford Husser?
I do not know that.
See the sheriff?
Dixie House?
Huh?
Florida,
Tennessee?
Tennessee.
You ever heard and seen the show Walking Tall?
Yeah.
Top baseball carry big stick.
Saved $100,000.
Cost us way more.
Well, it only happens once a year.
So, I mean, it's a necessary tool. Like, it's a giant advantage in the guys' tool belts. But we just need to decide as a city what portion we want to do. We want to buy the handles.
Hey, question for you. With our training area and training stuff that you have, are we capable of training other cities? Or is that not an option with this?
You mean for Taser?
Yeah, like,
So
go
Chris
ahead.
is a certified instructor. He can
Right.
train anyone, any department and stuff
Right.
too. Yes.
But the other cities will probably have to do the same thing as buy this system and not.
Yeah.
This is a national rollout. I think
Yeah.
North Ogden.
Okay.
North Ogden transitioned to them because they also have X26Ps, and they transitioned a year or two ago
Okay.
because it came up in their department as
They're
well.
the only company. That's the problem.
Yeah, they have a monopoly on it, is the unfortunate thing. And like, I used to be a Taser instructor. When I first became a cop, we had what was called the X26. And then the newest and greatest thing in like 2010 was the X26Ps, like what we have. So when they talk about that Taser 7 being available, that's probably the next one to phase out versus the Taser 10. But that's the crazy thing, is there's one company and they know it. And so this is why this is a national program that they've rolled out. And it's, yeah, they just go into the market.
Yeah, they do have a monopoly on the market as far as Taser, and they're rolling with the body cameras. And so, but that, yeah, so if you buy it outright, or if we were to do the 10-year program, it also locks in the price, so they can't inflate it, inflation, or they can't just, sneak an increase in there anywhere. It's flat. It is what.
Think of it as a lease. It's more or less, instead of owning it, it's a lease.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah, I mean, our department and our guys do pretty good at verbal de-escalation. Like I said, this is a tool. Unfortunately, they know how to work the market. Axon does, and it kind of holds your feet to the fire, and makes you kind of, move forward, even if you're not ready necessarily to move forward. But yeah, well, and I mean, our department does good on training, so that we invest a lot in training, our equipment. I'd say for a small department, we invest in those two things the most, and we don't have a lot of use of force incidents.
What does state law require? Do they require on tasers?
There's not a lot that requires you to have
I
them.
just needed to know that.
What's that?
Is there a state requirement or state law?
There's not. There's just I mean, every department uses them, and this again just another less lethal tool. So it covers us. So we don't become reliant on it per se, but instead of going to a gun, we have another tool where it's not going to result in a critical incident where someone passes away.
So what, so when you're talking about the purchasing of things versus the lease, how many cartridges and what are prices of cartridges, what costs
So
are
they-
associated that way?
They bundled it all together, and I tried to reach out to our rep to just get an itemized bundle, but they have it itemized. So they would send out 10 handles, so 10 taser handles, for four training magazines, and 4 of those for training purposes, 9 cartridges for red, which are inert, which don't deploy, they're not conductive, they're just training purposes strictly. They would send out 140 taser cartridges, so if we have 9 handles, well 10, and there's 10, so there's 100, then we have 40 left. And so every officer would have 10 cartridges in each handle.
I think what he's asking is how much the cartridges are each, and
Yeah, if you
Yeah, they
weren't
would-
doing the lease kind of a program and you're doing a buyout, do we know what the?
We don't, and I can
prices
find
of
out for
those
you. I
is?
tried to find it out because when I was reviewing it, they have just the quantity, but they don't have a complete breakdown of.
it took me
item
3
per
weeks to get
cost.
this one. And like I said, this is kind of just an introduction and all the rest of that stuff. But to your question, a lot of that you would figure you would need at least two cartridges a year per officer for training. And then the ones that we would use if something happens. So each officer would have at least one in their car, and we'll get that price to you. I just kind of wanted to get you guys thinking about what we're up against. It's not like we can't use our tasers right now. This is not a have to do right thing, so we just wanted to get the conversation going.
So if you have the tasers, so you're gonna have 10 of them, $100,000 basically,
Right.
and that's every year, every single year.
100,000 is, so it's 100.
10,000 per year.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah, so it's a 10-year term, and it's 10,500 ish a year.
So at
But
the
the
end of
total
it,
price with tax and everything,
it'd be 200,000.
everything that's all inclusive is 100,750. It's about $100,800.
But that's over a 10-year period.
Correct. So they break
it's
it down.
only $10,080
$10,080
a year.
Yeah, and so it breaks down to 10,000 a year to move to that. And like I said, if council decided to move forward, they could have them to us in March.
So one other question I had after Mark talked to me the other day, and I mean, and you can straighten me out if I'm wrong, but at the end of the day, the first thing comes to my mind is at an event, like say we have an event in Harrisville, how many officers are deployed during that event?
Normally, if we're talking a city event, we usually have our whole crew at the events.
Are you talking like a fall festival and all
Yeah.
those things? Yeah, I'll haul, 12, 13 officers are there.
So the next question I would have is, let's say you have all of your officers there, if you have 13 there, you only have 10 tasers, so some of you aren't gonna have taser anyway, right?
Yeah, I don't keep my certification on taser, I don't carry a taser.
So is it necessary to have 9? Now, I can tell you, preface that, I talked to my wife about it this morning, because she's a whole lot smarter than me. And she said, Roger, that's just plain stupid. Everybody needs a taser. So I'm gonna ask it either way, because at the end of the day, you know, could you have 4 tasers at the shop, and the majority of the people would have a taser, you know, every time you came and checked in at the office building, you'd pick up your taser and,
Like sat one out daily per shift versus being assigned one per week.
yeah, and then instead of having to go home with you at night, that it's there, and then if something happens at your house, then you can use your gun.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't mean to be,
No, you're good. It's
but
a-
I just
it's a
wonder if
valid
there's a
question.
way to try to cut it down from 9, can you cut it to 5, which would cut it in half, basically?
Not realistically, because every law enforcement officer in the state of Utah has a taser. They're issued a taser. It's part of that when they get hired on anywhere, they get issued standard equipment. As part of the standard equipment, you have your gun, your vest, you fit for a vest. They do give you a taser across the board.
So do you think that'll continue with this pricing?
As far as issuing all those out,
Yeah, I mean, if every agency in the state has to sign a contract for 10 years, at that, you know, basically $1,000 a weapon.
right?
So to your point, yes, that it's possible.
So you could do it
You could, yes.
and still be safe.
Yeah, as long as somebody leaves it there with on paper, yes.
Well, we have
But
the chief of
anyways,
police is gonna control
I'll
that.
let you go ahead and go, and like I said, I just want to get this conversation going. We'll have
Yes.
I'll put some other numbers down on the cartridges and stuff when I can get it, and we'll bring it back. I just wanted to focus on the guys' minds.
Perfect.
Okay?
Yes.
No? Any other questions?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
Thanks,
Chris.
Chris. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
Take flight.
Thanks, Blake.
What's that? See ya. You're doing training?
I am.
Cool.
Thanks, bro. Hey, you guys can have one. Give it to you.
Yeah, this is the funnest topic of the year that everyone loves. But it's also by state law, so you gotta hear it. First thing is congratulations on the new elected officials to you guys. You got a lot to do. I prefer questions, so as I'm talking, if you guys have a question, let's ask. told all these guys, we're gonna get it wrong, let's get it wrong together. But usually if we can communicate, we get a better result, better decision. We'll get to the handout a little bit, that's kind of the end. So a couple things. My role as the city attorney is I represent the city of Harrisville, okay? I do not represent anybody in here personally. My duty, my ethical obligation is to the city as an entity, and that is my task. So part of my job is to tell everyone in this room things they don't want to hear. It's just a harsh reality sometimes, but that is my job. So it's not personal. If I tell you something you don't like, I'm not doing it to be mean or because I don't like you. It's because I have a duty to Harrisville City to provide the best legal advice that we can to hopefully keep us out of court and out of lawsuits. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is public comments. So as an elected official, you guys have governmental immunity for most of your actions. What we're going to talk about tonight are ways that you can mess that up, which is what we don't want to do. No one in here wants to be sued personally, have Harrisville City have the trust say, oh, we can't cover you, and then you got to fight a legal battle because you're trying to serve your city. It's not at all what we want to do. Okay, so for public comment, the first thing that we talk about is in meetings, okay? Everyone is familiar with, or at least the ideas of the First Amendment, right? That's not, okay. So the public has the right to tell us things we don't like, to tell us things that are rude, wrong, sometimes mean, sometimes correct. They have that right to speak to us. So, and I say this a lot, and I don't always listen, and I'll speak directly to you, Mayor, here, because it's your meeting. By statute, by ordinance, it's your meeting. The quickest way for you to get in trouble, and this is a developing area of law, but it is coming. And it's coming to Utah, and there's a lot of people starting to do it already. The quickest thing you can do is treat people differently during public comment. Now, I say that, and everyone's like, well, I'm not gonna do that. It's really easy to do. If Greg gives a nice comment, and it's beautiful, and he takes his 2 minutes and 59 seconds, and you let him go, but he asks you a question and you don't answer it, that's fine, right? But if Brian gets up and takes 2 minutes, 59 seconds, and then you answer his question, what did you just do to Greg?
I offended him.
No, you violated his First Amendment rights.
Because I didn't
Because you
answer.
didn't treat him equal.
Okay.
And what a court's gonna say, or what my counterpart's gonna say, is you didn't like what Greg said, so you didn't answer his question in the meeting, and that is content restriction that you're not allowed to do. And courts have been very clear, you do not have governmental liability for this. And again, this is extreme examples, right? Most people are gonna come, we'll talk. Greg doesn't care that you answered Brian's question because his question was more detailed, and it's fine, right? But there's this subset of people that this is gonna apply to, and they're coming. Yeah.
So on that idea of content restriction, there's still, if I understand it right, there's still a balance of decency and, well, not just vulgarity or something like that. There's nothing at all.
So you are allowed to stop someone from speaking and essentially to kick them out of a meeting for disorderly conduct.
Okay.
Which would be anything yelling, it could be vulgarity, obviously if there's threats, anything like that, but it has to be extreme. There was a mayor in Chicago who had someone who was yelling some curse words and telling him how dumb he was. He had the police officers arrested him. The city of Chicago, the mayor, and the police chief all paid him a substantial sum of money. Millions. So the balancing of, because the courts and the First Amendment doesn't care what your definition of respect and decency is. So obviously if there's a threat, that is, we're done, right? A police chief will grab him, I'll grab him by the neck or her, I guess, and throw him out of the meeting. I have no problem doing that. But if someone is rude or vulgarity would be one, indecent, and it gets out of hand, what has to happen is there actually has to be a vote to kick them out, and it requires a 2/3 majority.
Okay. The reason I asked that is I was reading the policy of the meetings and how to handle. There's some phrases like that in there.
Yeah, it's an old policy that we probably need to update.
Okay.
And again, these laws are within the last couple of years.
Yeah,
3 years.
yes.
Post-COVID, that's how I define everything.
Okay.
This is post-COVID law.
So are they doing these on First Amendment, like audits like that, or are people going into the meetings and doing
To
audits?
see how people react.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And we've had them in other cities around. They do them sometimes in meetings, sometimes they do them a lot with the police department. They go in and record it and try and make an issue. But the case out of Chicago was a big one for elected officials. There's a couple other ones. The biggest one is Davison versus Randall, and that goes into social media, and I'll tie it together here in a sec. But the one out of Chicago was a big deal for persons that have to run the meeting because you're in charge, Mayor. And so, again, I caveat this, right? I'm talking worst case examples because that's my job, right?
You never know.
You never know. Most people, we're gonna have interactions, good, bad, ugly, then it's gonna be fine. But you specifically as the mayor in public comment, that is the riskiest position for you personally and your family and your assets that you will do as mayor. It's how you treat public comment. So what you can do in public comment, You can set a time limit and have standard rules that you follow forever and always. So you got 3 minutes. You don't restrict speech. You don't restrict content. Some people have more strict rules. There's some cities that require like pre-registration. There's some people that say we have public comment a maximum of 30 minutes. You can have a subset of rules, but you can't deviate from it. And the deviation could be really what I would call kind of common courtesy conversation could deviate and you could violate someone else's rights.
Would it be dangerous or helpful to say, print on the back of the agenda that's handed out as people come in the meeting, here is our code of conduct in public comment? Does that help?
No, because ultimately the only time that matters is when it's during public comment, which is the time you guys have allowed the public to speak to you, is if it is so bad that you're gonna have a vote to kick them out of the meeting. Or if there's obviously threatening or illegal behavior, then it becomes the officer's job.
Right.
It would seem to me like there would be some challenges that I could see. Not necessarily, you know, as I was running for election, a lot of the residents in Harrisville City are saying, we're tired of not getting an answer, like no answer.
Yeah.
And so when you try to commit to giving them an answer, as I moved the public comment to the beginning of the meeting, and in the first meeting, I said, you know, there'll be 2 people that can answer the question. One was me and one was Jenny Knight. I had an answer for one, but I didn't have an answer for the other one. And then when I prefaced it at the beginning, I said, I may not have the answer for you today, but we'll try to get it. Well, Jenny ended up calling that person and talking to him later. So we had the 2 that we ended up calling or talking to. One I did in the meeting, one that was called after. I mean, to me, I don't think I tried it to be wrong, but the scary part about it is I don't want to be sued. So do I just drop my weapons today and head for the hills and say, somebody else, Jason, you can be the mayor from here on out?
Pro Jeff, here we go.
Because
I definitely, I would tell you, no, you don't have to do that, right? But you have to be very careful.
and I get it, but the other side of that is you have immense pressure, right?
And with all due respect, that's what you signed up for. Because you have to balance the angry citizens versus the knowledge that you have. Until this meeting, you've probably never heard of this in your life. And neither have most of the residents who are saying they don't get answers. But it's your house and your assets that are on the line. And I'm just being frank with you, right? Like, do I like this? No, I think this is a ridiculous route, right? Like, if you as the mayor get sued under this, it should be because you know, your arch rival got up and was threatening you and you kicked him out, and it should have been an obscene that's on YouTube, right? As a funny clip. That's what this, but the case wasn't. It was. So how would the Utah courts take it? I can't answer that. My hope is that there would be some sort of a reasonable test in your conduct and in your discrimination. But right now, that's not the case law.
So let me ask you this, would it be better for no questions to be answered through the comment, and then the city administrator call and contact that person?
So my advice to you is to answer none of the questions, because I doubt you'll be able to answer them all. And even if you do answer them all, there's still an argument that if you spend 5 minutes answering Mr. Hadley's question and 2 minutes answering mine, that you have benefited him in his speech and violated my speech. Right? You don't like my questions, so you're discriminating my content by giving me a short answer. Now again, I'm talking extremes here. So my advice to you would be like, we want to be open and public. We'll answer your questions. Public comment is not a debate, period. It's not. It's to take comment, say, I appreciate your questions. We're going to answer them after the meeting, or we'll call you back, or we'll email you.
Because that was gonna be my next question.
Absolutely.
If you had questions were answered, can there be a forum in which those can be, such as, can they be amended to the meeting minutes of?
Yeah, so the way you do that process, and there are some cities that do that, is, and they require it by email, so it's written and there's a record of it, because you never want to get into the battle of, I said this, you said that, and now the minutes don't reflect that. So if you wanted to do that process, what you would say is, I appreciate your question. You need to submit it in writing to Jane. We will answer it, and we will email that back, and you would essentially just put those exchanges in your consent items as approvals for the next meeting, but it would be part of the record of the next meeting. And that's a really good idea.
Because that way everyone would see and answer the question.
They would have access to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether they would see it, that's a
Well,
different question. Yeah, this
Those
is.
who really wanna know the answer will find
Yeah,
out.
and this is one of the honest ones, like, I personally, for what it's worth, I have a really hard time with it. But like, I'll just tell you, one day, when all of you get sick of me and all of the cities that I help fire me, I'm going to go around with 10 trained people, and we're gonna go to city councils, and we're gonna get the mayor to say something to us, or not say something to us and wait for him to respond to Sally, and I'm just gonna file these lawsuits. Because I think the trust will see him, and they'll say, gee golly, we're gonna help our mayors out, and I'm gonna give you X number of dollars, and you'll settle it in a month. And then if it's really bad, I'm just gonna go and be like, hey, mayor, by the way, pay me $100,000 or I'm gonna own your house. And that's honestly what I would do, right now with the current state of the law.
And there are some who do that.
And there are organizations and groups that do it.
Making hundreds of thousands of dollars on YouTube with the person in the office.
They're making more than that, yeah. So, again, not trying to be Debbie Downer, but I just want to be very clear. Also, you can all be mad at me for this. Because we are doing our statutory mandated training, you guys all know these laws, so you can't say, oh, I didn't know. I've ruined it for you, so I apologize. But it's also my obligation to ruin it for you. So you can have qualified immunity for mistakes that you make in governance, right? Your qualified immunity is thrown out by the courts if you do anything that is fraudulent, illegal, or willfully against the law. And because I've advised you of this, you are now willfully doing this. So, you can all be mad at me, but I promise I have to do this. Okay, along the same lines is social media. Everyone have social media, use it? A little bit, no? Mayor, do you have social media?
Well, I have a Facebook page, but I never responded either.
Perfect. That's what I want to hear. So, as of now, your social media accounts, unless you are very careful, are a public record and a public document. And all of you as council members now have the ability, if you talk about city business and post social business on that, or go back and forth in comments about city business, you have now created your records to be one, grammable is the word I use. I don't even know if it's a word, but it is a public record at this point. Two, when you block somebody on that, even if they're not your friend, or even if they're saying bad things about your haircut, or your family, or whatever, you violated their First Amendment rights. There's a slew of cases, one of which includes our current president, in which they are personally liable for violating the First Amendment because they have turned their social media into a public record. So, the test. If you use Facebook for city business, or to talk city items, or to discuss the meeting, or the good, bad, and ugly, as a public official, you have two Facebook accounts. You have a personal one, and then you have a council member one. Or you just realize that your entire Facebook and its history is now a public record of which anybody can ask for. And if you block, delete, it's open and fair game. And again, if you abuse that, that's another one of those where your qualified immunity gets thrown out because I'm doing my job and telling you can't do that.
So-
Obviously.
So is it in the best interest of the city to have a Facebook account?
The city does have a Facebook account.
I know, but
but that are not run by elected officials, respectfully.
Correct.
It's an administrative function, yeah.
So there was a comment on there, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I responded to part of it. I can't even remember what I responded to be honest with you. But anyway, and maybe I shouldn't have responded to it. So I could go back and look at the Facebook page and see what I said.
Yeah.
Although I don't know how to get on the Facebook page.
Yeah, so I would just say honestly, like, you treat that as a public record. If you respond, you don't get to block their comments or their response back to you. You don't get to stifle their speech at all.
Yeah, and I didn't do any of that.
Yeah. And again, I hope that you don't think I'm projecting that you are. I just want to be very clear on where you can and can't go. And really, like this, so the city Facebook pages, it's the same. I give this training. It applies to Brian and Jack and the chief and Jenny. The case that started this for social media was, well, there were two almost simultaneously. One was a board member of a small town, and the other one was essentially a city manager. And their conduct essentially turned their personal Facebook accounts into essentially speaking for the city. And then when they blocked comments and deleted people, they were liable for stifling that speech. So yes, and there's a lot of value in Facebook, and it's actually really, I think, really good for cities because it's a great way to get messaging out. I mean, you know, I do some things with horses, and the only way we know schedules is because they put it on Facebook. There's no website. They put on Facebook and say, here it is, and I know a lot of people rely on that. Now, the city follows and retains record requirements of our Facebook that are controlled by the Utah Department of Records, and we have certain requirements on how long we have to keep things and have them accessible and available for public record search. Yeah, and we touched on this one, but you know, again, the general immunity, you don't have it because I'm advising you of these issues.
So generally, so just to kind of sum up, so I understand now. So if the city has a Facebook page to announce things are happening and that. And this is where the content neutral. But that is still a record of what's action. And as long as you keep it in that, saying this is what's taking place, and not start to say, we're doing this or we're doing this and we want you to do this.
Yeah, so our administrative Facebook pages, we cannot spend city resources to advocate for a position. Short of, there's a very few limited exceptions, but even then, we're pretty restricted. So the city can say, hey, the Easter egg hunt is this time, right? Or here's the law on winter parking, make sure you're careful. We don't get to say, hey, this issue's coming up, come and lend your support for blah, blah, blah. We don't, absolutely not. And the city would be in trouble for that as well. Yeah. Was that your question?
Yeah. Just that line.
Yeah. Yeah, it's facts only. Okay, the Open and Public Meeting Act is essentially that your guys' business should be done in the meeting. There's notice requirements, we have to have agenda, we have written and recorded meetings. A couple things to think about with open and public meetings. You're allowed to have you're allowed an exemption to the Open and Public Meeting Act anytime there's a quorum. So a quorum is 3 city council members. We have a quorum here, right? Before Mr. Montgomery got here, we still had a quorum because there were 3. Let's say you all go to an event and you're at the Fall Festival, right? You can all be there. That's not a problem. That's not what the act is saying. But at the Fall Festival, you 3 can't get together and decide how to vote. It seems intuitive, and honestly, like, I've never really been involved with the council, luckily, that this was happening. But your conversations, your ideas, your thoughts are to be in public, okay? This next part, please don't take out of context, but this is something that causes a lot of issues for some cities on the employment side of things. and I mean this respectfully, but I'm gonna pick on Mr. Montgomery because he's asked me questions and I love it before. Okay? But Mr. Montgomery, what authority do you have as a city council member by yourself? Zero. And I don't mean that to demean you. I mean it to tell you this story. You as city council persons, if you have an idea, a thought, something you want to do, something you think the city should do, the only authority you have to push that item forward is in city council meeting. Now, here's a thing that comes up a lot, right? Hey, citizen told me that Officer Paradise was a complete jerk the other day. I think we should fire him. Jenny, I want you to go and investigate this and get him in trouble. Can you do that? But here's also the harsh reality. What is Jenny supposed to say? Right? Because these two are already mad at Jenny for other things. And now you want her to fire Paradise, and there's been no communication, but now 3 of you hate her for her trying to stick up and do the right thing. It happens all the time. Happens all the time. Also, depending on how you play that, that's something that you can be in trouble for. Is violating employment law outside of the scope. Now that's an extreme example, but let me tell you another one that happens a lot. Neighbor comes, hey, I was out at the park the other day and Brian's guys didn't mow that east corner of the park. So you call up Brian. Hey, send your guys out to mow the park. Can you do that? But also, what's the position you put Brian in? Right? Now that's probably pretty simple, right? You just call up Jenny. Hey, somebody said the park wasn't mowed. Can you check with Brian and get it back out there? What's going on? Is there an issue? Did we break something? Right? But this is something that happens all the time, and it puts employees of every municipality across all the state and probably most likely the country in a really tough spot. So I would just ask you, one, as common courtesy, to do your directing of staff, putting forth your ideas and your agendas together as a body as you're supposed to. Okay?
So are you including me in that too?
No, you're special. We'll get to you.
We always do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really special.
You are. Yeah.
Well, I just want to add to that, because I've been on that other side.
Yeah.
And you're right, the amount of pressure that's put on, because then it's like, okay, if you don't respond to me quickly,
Yeah.
whatever you're presenting to staff, I'm not gonna follow.
But also too, let's,
And, yeah, it just creates
I'm gonna sit down if y'all don't mind for a second.
an uncomfortable position.
Absolutely uncomfortable. But let's kind of flip this. This is something I think about. Let's say everyone agrees that John Smith down the street calls up Brian and says, Brian, I need you to put a new goal net up at the soccer field. It's ridiculous that it looks so bad. Go do it right now. And so Brian drops what he's doing. He goes and spends money to buy a net, takes city time, takes 2 employees to go fix the nets at the soccer field. Who's here is upset at Brian? None of you are?
He's not doing his job.
What?
He's not doing his job. That's required of him.
So you're okay with any citizen directing Brian what to do?
No,
Yeah. So you are upset at Brian?
that's my point.
Okay, so you are.
Oh, because I can take it the other way, like, oh, he-
I've been
he's not
doing
in the park, so
I've
he
been
did a
doing
good
it
job.
wrong a long time.
Maybe it's a silly example, but I think the council and myself, I would be upset if any citizen could walk in and direct staff to go do X, Y, and Z. And respectfully, you as individuals are in that boat. You are not special by yourselves. And I mean that knowing that you have all this pressure and you have all these things and you're spending your time and effort to try and help your city. But you as council members are not special until you sit together as council members. So please don't direct staff to do things by yourself. Closed meetings. So closed meetings are available, they have to be public noticed, and they can only be for certain requirements. The main ones are strategy for litigation, real property acquisition, a personnel matter, security, or any type of contract where if we talked about it, it could adjust the price. Other than that, we really don't have public or closed meetings. We also don't schedule them just in case on every agenda like some municipalities do. That's not the way it functions. It is supposed to be a special thing for a certain purpose that's advertised. You have to have a roll call vote. 2/3 of the people have to agree to go into it. Same function to get out of it. It is recorded. That recording, just for everyone, will never be available public unless reviewed and required disclosure after a judge has reviewed it, what's called in camera. It's basically one of the things judges get to do privately. They take your evidence, go back in their chambers, watch it, and then make a decision. It's kept for a lot of litigation purposes. In the event that somebody says, well, you did this in the meeting, then we can make no, and you don't get to talk about that in court, or, yeah, you did, you're in trouble, right? That's how those function. With those, this is also one of those ways that y'all can get in trouble. You do not get to disclose anything that was said in a public meeting unless it's been subpoenaed and you're either in a deposition or in court after myself and most likely our trust attorneys have argued about it and fought it and we lost it after all that. Then you could disclose it and actually be required to. Other than that, you do not. So be very careful with that information. One of the ways that you get yourselves in trouble for violating that closed meeting happens a lot in litigation and personnel matters. Luckily, and quite frankly, credit to the staff, there haven't been a lot of personnel matters since I've been here at Harrisville City, but it's very common in situations that hit the news, and then a personnel decision is made, and your neighbors want to know, or hey, what happened? And it could be, you know, the news knows A, B, and C. You know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you actually tell somebody F. Right? It can happen without malice, so just be very careful of it. Hopefully we don't have any of those because those are the worst. Yeah, don't self-importantize yourself when you're talking with people. Don't get things for free. You guys know most of this, right? Don't be the gentleman up in Cache County who told the officer he was going to get him fired and defund the police because he was trying to investigate a citation dangerous site. Okay, Mayor, you are different than the city council because you do have some executive and administrative functions. So you can talk to staff and get answers and direct staff on things that are approved, right? So, you know, your budget is the biggest guiding document. That's where the city council says, here's X, Y, and Z of what we're doing this year in the money. You know, they're making allocations of where the money's gonna go and spent. Yeah, and you have the job to kind of oversee that and administer it. You work with the city administrator and city staff to get that done. You also have the authority to enforce ordinances, but essentially your check and your administrative authority is what the city council, one, approves in the budget, and then their policies and ordinances are things that they tell to do. That's where you don't get to just do whatever you want. There's a training book that says, as the mayor, you're an executive of the city, you're not a king. And that's the harsh reality. So a couple things just to kind of the warnings, I guess, for the mayor. You don't get to act unilaterally. If you want a change in the city or you want something to do that, you work that through council the same way. You know, you don't just say, I'm the mayor, we're taking the soccer nets out of the budget. You don't get to do that. As we talked about, you know, you can get in trouble for acting contrary to the way the city council has decided. If they've allocated things in the budget, or if they've approved a contract and you didn't think they should have, you cannot block that contract or stop it from execution. That would be a willful misconduct against what the city council has done. Way to get yourself in trouble. Yeah. And then with that, any willful misconduct, breaking the law, criminal acts, but again, I don't think we're worried about that at all. But those would be the types of things that you get in trouble for, mayor. So you do have the administrative functions and the executive functions, but you still have to have approval for council for changes, and you operate within the budget, the policy, and the ordinances that the council has approved and passed. Any questions about that from anybody? Just a couple things on employment law. Again, thankfully, we've had very few employment law issues since I've been here. They can be really intense and really problematic. And I say this from everyone that is involved in cities and representing cities and defending cities. As elected officials, if we have employment issues or personnel issues, please stay out of them until you are required to act. The federal employment litigation is one of the most complex, sometimes absurd, fact-sensitive, time-sensitive areas of the law. Employment matters that will come to you are for department level heads, department heads. That's when we would have closed meetings and you would make those decisions and you would be involved. Other than that, let your staff deal with it. If you have questions, we can try and answer them as best we can. But I have never seen a case where an elected official helped the entity by involving themselves in personnel matters. Okay, all of us, including the municipal officers and the elected officials, you're governed by the Officers and Employees Ethics Act. Big three, you cannot use or disclose information. We talked about that a little bit with closed meetings, but there's a whole bunch of information that the city has that you are not allowed to access, right? You can't run background checks or address searches via the police databases is one that oddly happens a lot. Don't do that. No special privileges because you're a city council member, and again, never had this issue, not thinking it would, but you know, you can't get a good break at Zions Bank because we're working on net funding, or you know, you don't get a deal at the four-wheeler store because they're gonna ask for a variance to do some building behind their shop. It's this is kind of one of those like, yeah, I know. Gifts is a big one. There's a $50 limit. Anything over $50, you either don't accept it. You can, in some instances, there's a mechanism to disclose that and make it public and say, I get X, Y, and Z, and there comes an award, but it has to be done publicly. And to be honest, most people that interact with cities enough don't do that because it's such a pain for everybody. So if you go to the League of Cities and Town conference, there'll be a water bottle and a pen and whatever. Take one. That's not what we're talking about. You know, occasionally someone will ask, especially the mayors, you know, you'll go to dinner with certain groups, WACOG, or it could be, you know, the trust maybe would take the mayor out to, or a city council member to lunch. It's totally fine, but you don't get to go to Ruth's Chris, right? So just make sure And you laugh, but there's been some cities that got some pretty bad audit findings because, and their elected officials got in trouble because they were at dinners that were $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So,
But if you go to Ruth's Chris and get something under $50, you're good.
can you do that? What can you get? A salad and baked potato, maybe. But if you go to Ruth's Chris, are you going to do that? I said if you're in that position, make them pay for the salad and baked potato, and you pay for your steak.
Well, I know like the mayors meet
Yeah.
like there's a meeting on Thursday where all the mayors get together. Well, the first one I attended was at the Ogden Golf and Country Club. And I ordered a sandwich. I think it cost $19.85.
Yeah. So that $50 is the rule. And here's one, just to be frank, and I don't know if anyone cares. A lot of times at conferences or, you know, when people come to the city and they want to interact with the elected officials, they want to go golfing. I don't know if anyone's a golfer in here. I'm not. Be very careful if you go golfing because I know a round of golf gets over $50 pretty easy. So just be careful. Mandatory disclosure. So you are required to disclose conflicts if you have a substantial interest in a business, which is anything that's 10% or more, that is regulated by the city or the city is making a decision on, anything like that. If you own a business that's doing any business with the city, you have to disclose that. It's not saying you're precluded from that, but there's very specific requirements to follow that. And if you have a client that is doing business with the city, so I'll use me as an example. I have a client that, might want to build a house in Pleasant View. I would 100% have to disclose that to the city. For me personally, I would not represent him in that transaction. But if you have anything like that, you have to. We have annual disclosures. Yeah.
Well, maybe you're gonna cover this, but I know I'd asked Jack about this when filling out the performances. So sometimes I can see where people say, well, you've got a conflict of interest because you own your home here in Harrisville.
Yeah,
and that will affect your decision of how you look at my development.
Yeah, that's a losing argument. That's a non-starter, right? Like the requirement to be in your seat is that you live in Harrisville. So it's not a conflict. Yeah. And that happens a lot, especially when you talk about proximity, right?
Yeah.
And that is, ultimately, that is a political calculus, and the political consequences are what kind of drive that. It's not a legal thing that you have to disclose or that you would have to sit down and vote for. Yep, that's a good question. Yeah, make sure we're doing the annual disclosures as required. That has to be submitted. We got that all done.
Yep, I left it sitting on my desk.
That's okay.
So, February, I'll have to sign it.
Yeah. So, make sure we get those, okay, sorry.
Could I, and maybe this is not, I don't see this happening maybe in city council. Where I experienced was in planning commission where a planning commissioner, because the majority voted a different way, then went out and politically created a rally to come to the city council now to protest the planning commission's action, or the recommendation to the council. What is the balance there between you're a decision maker or a recommendation person and then political activity then to promote?
So, the planning commission, so kind of the levels of your question. Planning commissions, respectfully, there's really not an analysis because they're an appointed member that's making a recommendation. They don't have final authority. For city council members, it's a little harder because a couple of things. You as a citizen can participate in any lawful manner of the political discussion. However, you cannot use your title and or city resources, even emails or anything like that, to sway some sort of thing like that. So, yes, you can participate, and ultimately the law wants people to participate and protects that. You just have to make sure you're not using kind of some of those things we already talked about, private information, non-public information, you're not using city resources to do that.
So I thought they changed on the planning commission for like subdivisions, where they are the beginning and the end.
They are, yes. But that is not a legislative decision. That's an administrative decision. It is you meet the ordinance or you don't. That is what the analysis of the planning commission is supposed to be for subdivisions. Yeah. So, because, right, the question kind of backs up. The real political fight is whether or not to change the zoning for a subdivision, because that's really where it comes in, and that ultimately is still the city council decision.
That comes back.
Once that's been zoned, the planning commission's analysis, and that's why ultimately I believe the state changed that, is that it is not a, do we like this person, do we like this? It's what's the zoning, what's the ordinance, do they meet it? So that's the difference.
Okay.
Yep. Good question. Okay, grammar real quick, I hit on it already, but just plan yourselves that your text, email, social media is a public record. So if you don't want it read by your neighbors or printed in the newspaper or put on YouTube, don't say it. Okay, I put a little handout for you guys here, and then I'll wrap up unless there's more questions. So it's kind of a checklist of when you should call me. Again, please err on the side of calling me. I might not answer immediately, but I'll call you back. Let's figure it out together. Let's talk through it. If you don't have my cell phone number, I'll gladly give it to you after the meeting. You can all have it. Obviously, I don't want that on public record because there's some bad guys that still would like to meet me and when my back's turned. So, but yes, call me. Okay, we can figure it out. Just a couple of things on there of when to ask me. This is kind of just ultimately kind of the newspaper test is still pretty darn good. If you're having a debate with yourself and you're like, what's this going to look like on the news or on Facebook? I guess Facebook is now really what it would be. Let's talk about it. Goes for staff as well. You guys know that. You can call me, text me. What's going on? Let's try and figure it out. And then I just did a little top 10 of ways you can get sued. I think we hit all of them. But if you have any questions, ask me. And again, feel free to reach out, call me, whatever. Does anyone have any questions before I leave you alone and not bother you anymore?
So last fall, we did a project out at the Bowery where we added some sidewalk. And there was a group of ladies, and I didn't know at the time, but it happened to be Greg's wife was one of them. But we just asked for some input on what these residents liked to see. And ultimately, they had a great idea, and we put a sidewalk where they wanted it, and it turned out great. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
you didn't do it just because Greg's wife said.
Right.
Yeah, we want public input.
Okay.
I'm just talking, and Maya is direction, right?
Okay.
Especially now, Greg's wife can't tell you, go put the sidewalk here.
Right.
You can say in a meeting, hey, Greg's wife had an idea that I think is really good. I would like to spend $6,000 to extend the sidewalk from here to here. The council okay with that?
Right.
Which is what you did, right?
Yeah,
You went through
right.
the budgetary process and it worked out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not saying to not take public input and to talk with people. I just don't want any individual commanding city resources as if they're in charge, and to include the elected officials respectively.
Got it. Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, I'll leave you guys to it.
Okay. I think the chief wants to start first.
I did. I'm first?
Yes, first. Jill's gonna have you pulled up here in a minute.
No, we didn't.
What is, council and mayor, what, do you want me to go line by line? Do you want me to just go through the changes?
You can ask them what they would prefer. I mean, I've gone over most of it with you, so I think it's up to them at this point to see what they want to see.
Nobody's gonna
So I
help me out
started,
here.
I started out with the summary kind of at the beginning, and
I would say.
then, so you can see where last year was versus this year, and then as you went.
So I'll just start going through, and if you have questions, please stop me. And if I start bouncing around, you can stop me.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is gonna go down this year is the salaries and wages. And there's a couple of reasons that is going down. As we all know, Assistant Chief Moore retired. His replacement doesn't make quite what he was making, so we're gonna have some savings there. The second biggest reason is in last year's budget, we had some openings, and I like to plan for the worst. So when we budgeted last year, we budgeted all at, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we budgeted each position at $38 an hour. Just in case we were to get laterals, or, so it didn't limit who we could hire. We don't get a ton of applications, so when we get a good one, it was that opportunity to be able to hire whoever came in. Those positions have been filled, and 2 of them, instead of being at the top end, is at the very bottom end. So it's gonna have some savings there. Part-time, that one's going up 4%. Is that's just for the merit stuff you have figured in, right? There's no, I didn't make any changes to that.
Nope.
Court security wages, that's been coming out of the police department. I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Just a question on the merit. So do you have a set of criteria, say, okay, if you hit these criteria, then there's a merit increase that takes place? Is that how that works?
I'm gonna leave that
I can actually answer
Okay.
that. So every year we do the COLA,
Right.
that's normal. The merit is different. We put it in there as a possibility, but they get evaluated every year mark that they have their anniversary. If they're not doing their job, they're below, which, if you wanna look at those, forms, we have one specific for the PD, and then Public Works, Parks, and then Admin. It's tailored to what their actual jobs are. But if they're below, they won't get a merit. If they're doing their job, they don't get a merit. That's why they get
That's
paid
why
to
they're getting
do
paid.
what they're doing. It's if they go above and beyond and it's actually measurable,
Okay.
then depending on where they hit that measure, depends on if they get the full percentage or a fraction of that percentage. So it just, because it's measurable, it's easier to gate where they get that percentage. So there are times where people are just doing their job, so it's there. They don't get their merit, and that's fine.
So when she does our budget, it's automatically added in there because it could be a liability.
Because it could be there.
Right, it's gotta be accounted for, whether they get that or not, it's to be seen, so. And those are always a little off too, because you budget for the whole year for it, and somebody's might be right at the end of the year, and so those numbers are never gonna hit right on.
Right.
Anyways, any other questions on that?
That's a good question.
So the evaluation method, did you go through the measuring on the review? Is it like a point base?
Yes.
Is that what you do?
So it's point based depending, for example, your leadership one. You wanna explain that?
Do you have one that
Probably
we can
a good
pull
one.
up
Remember that?
on your iPad?
I don't have one on my iPad.
So I believe the numbers are 1 through 7,
Mhm.
and it just breaks it down, so, I'd have to look at the score sheet again, but I think 5 is you're doing your job, and then anything above that or below that.
And if,
There's a scoring sheet, so when you get that, it tells you exactly what, if this employee's hitting this, it should be in between these. It gives a point value. And we can provide the sheet. It was, they were actually approved in council last year.
2, 3 years.
2, 3 years
Was
ago.
it that long ago?
And if they go above, you have to explain what that is on that review. So it's not just like, ooh, I I like this person. No, they have to explain what it is to justify. And that goes back to, I'm treating every employee the same. If I'm gonna go up here, I have to justify if I'm not going up there for XYZ person.
So Chief Wilson submits it, right?
So the
Whatever
employee
he,
actually
whatever
gets
he's,
to
whatever
write
he
their own.
submits after the employee submits it to him.
So the way we
Is
do
that
it
the
in the police
bottom line?
department is the supervisor to the employee does the, review, goes over to the person, then, the assistant chief will review it and I'll review it. I'm the final viewer of, they give me a recommendation and then I look over it.
So you're the checks and balances.
Well, not the full checks and balances, then it goes to the front office, right? So I sign my part, there's, and then it's not just because I say it, they get it, right? It goes through all the checks and balances.
And it gives the supervisor the opportunity to go through it with the actual employee. So it's not like they get blindsided. It's they sit down, hey, they actually get to fill out their own portion of it, and then the supervisor does, and they get to talk about it. It's a communication with them, and then if it was Mark's department, Mark would then read through it, sign off, and then it comes to me, and then I talk to him, follow up with him, and do whatever else.
But these measurable goals,
Mhm.
they know they are to begin with.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, beginning of the year, they know, I've gotta do this, this, and this, if I'm wanting to get to that point. It's not a surprise at the end, they know what they had to do to begin with, to get there.
Yeah, none of it's a surprise. It's on their job, performance, and they know what it is. That's not their first evaluation. Court security wages, was normally coming out of the police budget. I know it's semantics, it's coming out of general fund regardless, but we're asking to pull that out of our budget and put it in the court budget. I mean, it's not a absurd amount, and like, again, it's semantics, it's still, at the end of the day, coming out of the same place.
It's actually important though, based on some of the things that the administrative office of the court is doing, that we show the true cost of our court and what the liability is for the court. So it is semantics because Harrisville's paying for it, but we are required to pay for it, one, because we have a justice court. And as we move some things along legislatively, we're gonna wanna have that cleaned up so we can show things, because the court system, is being looked at and has been for a while. So that is something we need to do.
And something I went over the mayor with is, the police department will still, help with that. With the bailiff, so we have a company that we contract through for the bailiffs. It's hard to get employees to work 8 hours a month, right? You're not gonna get it, so it's just cheaper and easier to go through this company. Having said that, if there needs to be any transports or somebody needs to go to jail from court or anything like that, it even needs to be scheduled ahead of time or they charge. It's an extra fee. So if stuff like that comes up, our on-duty officer is gonna do that to not incur the extra fees. Okay? Our employee benefits, I'm just gonna hit on that one just a little bit. That number is normally a pretty high number. That budget never gets exhausted. We have a couple of, the way that's figured is everybody's figured on a family rate in case you move employees. So when you budget that, it's all budgeted at the high end. We have a program with Harrisville that if your spouse has insurance somewhere else, then you get it's up to a $450 payment instead of the Harrisville paying for the whole amount. So we have a couple of employees that do not take our insurance, so we save some money there too as well. So that number is big, but as long as I've been chief, we have not spent that money, right, the whole amount.
So do we have an indication of increases in medical and dental for the next year, or is
So-
it done in a 2 or 3 year system?
open enrollment, that's something that I, sit with our broker. They go out and they kind of help get a good deal to see where we're at. And that usually happens about mid-April, because our open enrollment's usually the end of May.
So we don't know numbers yet of what they.
Not yet, but I will say this, for the last 4 years that I've been here, we've had them go out and look. We have a plan that is no longer offered anymore because it's such a low rate, and we've pushed our employees to go do those preventative things rather than having those big oops. You know, if those happen, they happen. But the more we can get that done, the rates actually will only bump up a little bit. The average for the last 4 years has been about 3%. Compared to, they look at Blue Cross, they look at Select Health, the high deductibles, all those things. Select Health last year was 13% and Blue Cross was 9%, and ours was, I think, 3.7%. So we try to stay with the lowest one to help with costs for the city, and as soon as we get off that, they won't offer that anymore. So if we can keep that low, if it goes up to comparable to the others, we'll have that discussion. It's not like we don't want to save money, it's more of if we can keep it that low at a really good insurance, then great.
I had one question I thought about after we left the other night, but and it pertains to employee benefits across all departments, but so throughout time, has Harrisville just developed all of the benefit programs? Or is that like I know there was some conversation in our meeting where some of it was required by state law, and
Yes.
some of it was, but like what percentage of the benefits is just, we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, if you will, or the other cities, and then how much of it is required by state law? Is it like a 30, 40, 50% of the
So,
state?
with retirement, that's a state requirement.
Okay.
And for example, we have people that are on tier 1 of URS, that's a different percentage versus tier 2. And you throw in public safety, that's a whole other level. So there's technically, I wanna say there's a handful of different plans. So depending on what they are, depends on how much they're gonna the city's gonna have to pay. For example, tier 2, we have officers and we have people like me, which is great. We actually have to pay into our own retirement. The city does not at 100%. The state has brought rates up to a certain part, and I want to say it was 2 years ago that they gave the option to cities to say, hey, you want to cover this extra amount? And Harrisville was like, no. So now anything above that rate, our employees actually pay into it.
Yeah, so the only reason I ask this is that my whole life I've been in private industry, not in the public sector, and I can tell you, even when I made $200,000 a year, I didn't get. I mean, my benefit packages weren't setting it where I'm seeing here, right? I mean, if you take what I paid in medical insurance and retirement, all the other, I was lucky to spend, $33,000 maybe. And so then I get it, and it's almost shocking, like when you look at it and go, whoa, because, some of the benefit programs that I was seeing was such that it's more than the median income in Utah, right, for a lot of people, and so, and unfortunately, even though as inaccurate as the Transparency Utah is on their website,
Yeah.
As inaccurate as that is, it's like crazy irritating to public, right? To the people out in the city when they pull up things and all the garbage that was going on the line about everybody's making this and blah, 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 blah. And then, now I sit here as the mayor and I see what they're making, which is not anywhere near what was going over all of the garbage online. And then, but then I have to say that the benefit side of it is ginormous, right? And yet, for years and years and years, I thought, look at going into the public sector world, it was always low pay, great benefits, great retirement, right? And now the pay is on the upper echelon pay, right? Reality, I mean, that's from
Harrisville,
private sector.
I'm gonna be honest, the private sector, cause I came from the private sector and came to, government, I dropped dramatically.
Yeah.
The pay is not equivalent, I'm gonna be honest. So, if you look at government, even just in Weber County, we are one of the lowest. With that being said, we've tried to kind of keep it competitive with some of the benefits that we do have. So, you know, we aren't paying, I'll say there's another city that we pay 90%. They pay 75%. Same exact insurance. They have more employees, but they also pay extremely a lot more than what we do. So, I mean, we've tried to kind of
Well,
keep it to a certain realm.
And I appreciate that, Jill. I just think it, you know, I've gone through wage studies on the private sector side, and you see, you know, really high billion-dollar-a-year companies that pay really well, and then you find this part of the barrel that's another part, and you know, but typically, you know, how many paid vacation days do you get that's in that number, right?
Mhm.
And then, and you wonder how many, you know, how does that compare to everybody else in the city world?
Yeah.
And I get you wanna try to be competitive, but it's just one of those areas where, you know, when we go to try to raise taxes on everybody gets over the top, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's just a concern.
No, I mean, it's good to ask these questions, have these types of discussions, so that way we can look at everything. So I'm not saying don't ever ask.
Right.
That's our job, is to be able to look at everything.
And this might be for both of you, I don't know, and, because I'm just trying to understand some things. Because you'd mentioned something, Chief, about, well, we have this amount budgeted, we're not usually always there. What's the mindset of why we have the high number, why?
Well, that's
If
gonna
we
be
have-
different in each line item, so I'm gonna,
Yeah,
we'll go
'cause-
back to the.
Are we talking about benefits?
Talking about the benefits
So,
Okay.
specifically, because
when you
if you
offer
have.
benefits, it's a liability for the city, so the auditors expect you to account for that, money ahead of time. And you have to have that money in the account in case that happens. So, yeah, you've got to account for the money, and the line item by itself, is if it doesn't get paid, then nothing else is gonna come out of that budget. Like, that's the only thing that can come out of that line item, so it's safe, but you do have to budget for that, because it is a liability for the
You
city.
can't use it over here.
Right.
Or over here.
So, sorry, I'm losing my voice. So if he has 14 employees, we have to have that readily available in there in case, say, Nick decides to go somewhere and we hire someone. Nick doesn't take insurance from us, but this new person comes in
Right,
and they want it, it has to be available.
sure.
It doesn't mean you might have, like, I take insurance through us and I have a family, that's a certain amount, but, Chief is just him and his wife, so it's a lower amount. We have to have it for that family as available in case Chief leaves and whoever comes into that position has that family. If they decide not to take the insurance, a little thank you to say, hey, we appreciate that you didn't take our insurance. they get a one-time, if it's a family, it's 450. If it's just them and a spouse, I believe it's 250. And if it's just them, it's just $150. It's cheap.
So what happens to that money if it's not used?
It goes right back into the general fund.
Okay. So how does that play into the budget to offset year over year over year then?
So, my hearing just kind of jumped. So we have to account for all these revenues that come in. And then we have all of our expenditures that we're anticipating. That doesn't mean it's gonna happen. Sometimes, a disaster happens and it takes a lot more. We have a fund balance that we can carry over and we can put back in. The caveat of it is, depending on the size, depending on our budget, depends on how much we can hold. And that's state requirements.
Right, yeah, it's 35%, I understand that.
But we can't have anything less than a certain amount as well. So if we don't use it, we can put it back in that fund, whether it's for a project, and things like that. But depending on what type of revenue that comes in, depends on how it's gotta be used, because we do have restricted funds.
So I think my question is, and I understand what you're saying, and maybe I'm not asking the question right, so. But I wanna understand, like, if I have that balance, how does that balance show against the budget? Is that recorded is that part of what's on the income portion
So
of the budget, or is that
That's just says
not
that
to
it's
be?
a non-expense amount.
It's called carryover.
There you go.
Well, I know
Thanks.
it's
was trying to
carried
figure out the
over,
word.
but I understand that. But what I'm saying is, so if the budget, we have income that's saying we've got this, so much from sales tax, some property tax, et cetera, on the income points. And then we have all these things that show up under the expense points. Where does that carryover show? Is it on the income?
It will actually, if our revenue doesn't come in and doesn't match to what we expend, we can use the general fund. But if we don't spend that and our revenue is still high, then whatever we have left over, we can put in there and it's a carryover, but it'll just show as non-expensed. So if I'm trying to think of an easy way to,
So
say
is
we got
the-
3 million in revenue and our expenditures were 2,700,000. But we budgeted for 3. That 300,000, if it's not expensed, we can put that into the general fund, as long as it doesn't max over the amount that we can retain.
Correct, I
Or
understand
go
that, but is that general fund, is that a part of the balancing of the budget at all? Like, so if I have $100,000 in my bank account
Mhm.
as a private citizen, my salary is gonna be 100,000, and my expenses are gonna be 120. My budget for the year technically could be $200,000, right? Because I have 100,000 of income, I have 100,000 that's sitting in the bank. And my budget, my expenses can equal 200,000. Is the general fund used in that way to balance the budget, or is it only the classifications of income versus expenses?
Think of it as a savings in another spot. If we wanna use it, we have to put it on the budget that we are allocating this X amount of money, whatever the amount is, from this fund to the budget.
So
And you have to do transfer at that point to make that happen.
Yes.
So what I'm understanding is it's not used in that, right? It's not used to, this is a part of our income. It's
not used as part of the budget.
That's what I'm trying to
We
understand.
can use it
So-
if needed, like, say we had a disaster and we have to do the amendment and say our stormwater,
It's
the
there,
pipe is gone.
but it's not used as part of the budget until it's allocated as part of the budget. Other than that, what I think you're saying is that money stays there, and then the next year
But it could also be moved
can
from that
be
budget
used
to
back into,
another one.
yeah.
But we have to have X amount of, I don't remember off the top of my head, the lowest amount we have to have it in there.
It's either 3 or 5%.
I I know it's a low end, but we have to have a certain
Like,
percentage.
just for the police department or?
General,
No,
for-
so if you look at the budget, anything with the 10 in front of the dash, that's general fund.
Right, but what I'm saying is if you have a general fund balance over here for $909,000, and Brian comes up short in one sense, or he's over the amount of revenue that he has, it could be taken out of the general fund to offset that shortage.
And then just, cause you're gonna see this come probably June or the end of May, or in May. We're gonna come to you if there's amendment to change anything, and it's usually to say we didn't have as much of a need in, I gotta be careful how I say it because some funds are restricted. We'll say admin, you know, like say we didn't end up buying a copier. Not that we're going to this year, but we allocated $10,000. That's an expensive one. And we'll say, Mark needed it for his copier. I don't know, because we're transferring it from the admin to PD, you would see that. So, but Fund 10, as long as the end is not over, it's preferably that every department, their whole thing, so for example, the parks, as long as he doesn't go over this, he's okay, because it's his little budget. You have the general fund, but his little budget.
What kind of general fund is this?
So, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my thing on it is, you know, if at the end of the day, we budget, and I can't see because plus signs there, but $892,000, and yet the revenue that we have coming in is only $710,000, but you have a general fund budget of $2 million. Could you offset that need with the general fund in that particular area?
If we need it, you bet.
That's what I'm saying.
We'd actually be required to
So,
balance the budget at the end of the year.
So, May, or June, that's when you'll see all those amendments, and you'll see if we have to pull it, it'll show that. But most likely, because they kind of cushion everything in case of emergency,
no, I get it.
it won't.
Should be,
It won't, hopefully,
okay?
if we do it right.
Plastic table.
Okay.
You got the first.
We
Sorry.
made it to CSI, which is the technical services. That's the portion we pay to Weaver County as the CSI. It's a metro thing, so everybody in Weaver County pays in it if they're gonna use it, plus Morgan pays into that.
Do they give you numbers ahead of time what to plan for that, or how do you?
Yeah,
get
no.
those numbers?
So their budget's the January to January, so it's kind of hard to get, right in. We fell short the year before because the numbers I got from them to try to budget was not accurate, and then it was quite a bit higher. So we moved it to the 28,000 just to make sure that we had a little bit of cushion in there and decide what they were gonna bill us. There's a formula on how they bill that. It's population plus calls, and so we try not to we don't call CSI out on all vehicle burglaries anymore, and like we used to. You know, we try to limit it up where we call CSI out because those incur charges. But yeah, their budget's different, and as hard as I try sometimes to get the number, it's not the same when it comes.
Can I ask you something about that?
Yeah.
So, when CSI comes out, what do they do differently than you do in a normal investigation?
Well, they're gonna be certified techs and stuff, and when they collect evidence, it's done, and they'll testify in court to the way they pull fingerprints, and if you were the cost of doing this ourselves, the way they do it with fingerprint reading and all the tools that they have, this is a cheaper route to do. It's cheaper to be part of Weaver County than it is to try to have your own. There's a lot of, equipment and stuff that come along with, crime scene investigation that this is a better option. Professional services, nothing's gonna change there, that's, blood draws, we use that for employee drug tests, mailing letters, those type of things. Narcotic strike force, that number stayed pretty true for quite a while. It is budgeted for what, $550 more than what the bill's been, just to have some cushion in case it comes up. Travel and training, that's gonna be a change. It shows a 21% increase, but it's not an increase of the total budget. That's, the money that's increasing on travel and training is coming out of the equipment line item that's there now. So we're just moving from equipment up to training. We have several new officers this year and some other things that are gonna need some specialized training, so that's why I'm asking to move the money from equipment to training on that one. Equipment repair and maintenance, that's the vehicle repair, oil changes, stuff breaks, all that kind of stuff. It is, we don't usually spend that amount either, there's some cushion built into that one. You just never know if a car gets crashed or if there's these unknowns you gotta account for, so.
What was it, a couple of years ago, he dropped 2 cars once? Was that?
Yeah, we've been lucky lately with, they've been not our fault accidents, but still, even with the insurance, once you deal with this stuff, there still might be some costs that we're gonna eat because they're not gonna pay out.
100%.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so. Where we at?
Motor pool payments.
Motor pool. Okay, so that one's gonna go up just to do the cost of vehicles. The way the motor vehicle work, or the motor pool works is we try to buy 2 cars a year and sell 2 cars. They are on a 5-year rotation. Spoke to the mayor about a little bit of this too. The equipment costs that are going in these new cars are a little higher right now because we're switching to new equipment. We try to run the equipment in 2 or 3 cars, so we're at the point where we're switching out equipment. So that's gonna be a little higher right now. We got, I think, 2-3 cars that need to be upgraded, and then that cost will go down because we'll start moving that equipment car to car.
Now,
So-
when you said motor pool, does the city operate its own,
Yeah, so the city
Maintenance
buys the vehicle
facility
and we
and then-
lease it.
so we lease it, and so it's through that lease program where that's coming from?
Yep. And so, to keep on your minds, I usually like to ask to order those cars sometime March and April. Like to get in before the new year switches so we can pay the old prices instead of the upgrade prices. Sometimes it saves us $500 a car, sometimes it's $1,500 a car, but it's a savings. So if council gives you permission to order those cars, we order them. Ken Garf will hold those cars until July, so the money won't be spent until July. We won't pick the car up, we won't pay for it until July.
Well, that's a state contractor, Ken Gar.
Okay.
NAP, and forgive me, I can never remember, it's a protocol, it goes to dispatch, but that's been the same forever and ever too, that's.
I thought you told me it was for your nap time.
Yeah, I need one, my bedtime is 8:00, not your. And if I can sell you on that, I'll take it.
Them are expensive sleeps.
Lexical and accreditation. That one's not changing anymore. You wanna go over what's in it, or?
Well, so one of the things on Lexpool was that we talked about possibly moving that up to the training side, and then the other part was manuals, cause it was, Lexpool's a training platform, but it's also manuals, right?
Yeah, so Lexipol does a few different things for us. Lexipol is our policy, all our policy manuals. The second part of it is the officer tracking that the legislature mandated that we have. The third part that's in there is Power DMS, and Power DMS is the interface from our Lexipol policy to our accreditation through UCOPA. The last one that you're talking about is the Lexipol offers, what they call ETD, no, sorry, that one's in the Lexipol, forgive me. The training part that you're talking about is called Police One, and that's where we send out our videos on de-escalation, anti-bias, all those type of, those are training classes that are already pre-recorded in there. They have tests, they send a certificate, plus it's tracked in that system, so if anybody says, oh, did you do de-escalation training, did you do this, did you do that, yes, we can pull everybody up and show they did it this year, this year, this year. Some of those are only required every other year, some are required every 3 years, we require our officers to do them every year. If it comes down to a lawsuit, and the officers did something wrong, they can't come back at us and say that we didn't train. Right, so, I'm big on training.
And it's not a big deal to me whether we go put it in training. That was the comment I made Monday, but if the council wants to leave it where it's at, that's fine. I don't have a preference.
And this is just a draft. It'll come
Right.
before you as.
So it can definitely be big on training. That part doesn't make that big of a deal to me either way.
Okay.
So that's what that one is. Media, that's just brochures and stuff, whatever we wanna put out for social media. Gasoline, we did cut 10,000 out of that one this year. It has been high because it's obviously hard to figure out how much we're paying for gas. Right, and so I feel comfortable, we look back the last few years and we're still have some cushion of taking the 10 grand out, so we can take that, no problem. Office supplies, papering, that kind of stuff, printing services, we're gonna need some citations and stuff, the book citations were completely out, business cards, we make blanks, business cards for the officers so that not everybody has their own, it's just a blank when they drill them in there, they drill in the case number. Uniform allowance, that's exactly what it is, uniform allowance, ammo, all these are staying the same, we didn't add anything to these. Subscriptions, memberships, code enforcement, and me and Roger talked about this one, this isn't actually paying for the person, it's paying for supplies for the code enforcement employee.
But that's also something for the council to consider, is what we're gonna do to try to help fund better the code enforcement part of it, right? Because we need to try to make it better than it's been.
We'll do some wage studies and look into that and
Yeah, I mean,
give
that's
us some
just, so
information.
just keep that in mind.
If I can add, sorry, while you're having that discussion, the thing about code enforcement, that the thing through is not only the supplies and the employee, but there's a lot of expenses that can be incurred from the city to actually enforce those actions. And so when you talk about what you guys wanna do as a council, that's a decision, because ultimately, when I get them into court, we can enforce cleanup actions and abatement actions, but there has to be money for that, otherwise it does no, it changes nothing, how about that? Yes, there's in court and there's a fine, but I mean, if you're in court because you can't clean up your yard, you're probably not gonna be paying the fine anyway. So there has to be funds to really make that effective, that the city can clean up and through an abatement hearing process.
And I get it, I just, at the end of the day, I mean, the part that I have a problem with is we tend to do okay when we get a speeding ticket, but we can't take care of any of the zoning ordinances we have, but yet if we have, why have the zoning ordinances if we're not gonna uphold them? Right? So.
Well, I think on that part, you know, in trying to uphold the zoning ordinances, one is generally gonna be some legal process that has to take place, and then it actually is the abatement, because they're not gonna do it on their own.
Well, and then how do you get the, can you get the funds somewhere through the, putting the lien on the house or what have you? I mean, I know it becomes legal, but at the end of the day.
That's certainly part of the process, but the difficulty for all cities is that you have to pay for the abatement and then get the lien.
Then hope you get the-
paid back.
So I don't know how you wanna handle that. I will come up with a plan if you would like on what we can do with that. I mean, me and the mayor had a lengthy conversation about this the other day, and there were some things come up we talked about, and I feel like, the mayor has suggested that if employees are out, that they see that, they take a picture and report that. I would think that if that's the case, I think that's great that the employees do it. I think code enforcement is great. I think it helps. We had the conversation about the trailers down at the Walmart and how that's helped. Anyhow, there needs to be an employee that knows the codes in and out. They know, that is the person that they go to. So if we want employees to be watching for that stuff and turn it in, there needs to be a person that it goes to so they can track it, they can send the letters, they can take the pictures. Because you can't just send the letter, you can't just, take the pictures. When it comes to, if Brody gets it, I mean, like the story you told me where some citizens are gonna go and clean it up, they're gonna do the right thing. That's less than half. But if he has to take it, Brody's gonna want, okay, when did you send the letter? When did you take the pictures? When did you follow up? When did you send your second letter? He's gonna want reports on all of that, so when he goes to court, he can handle the case. So somebody's gonna have to manage that. And, we've had this conversation with past councils that it's better it not be a law enforcement officer, they're more expensive. So we can find they don't have to be law enforcement to do code enforcement. If they need backup, the police department's there to go and respond with them. We did that the other day at a house over on Harrisville Road. One of our officers went with Gary. So we're there, we have no problem supporting, but if we're gonna do code enforcement and we're gonna do it right, we need somebody to do it. We need somebody to manage it. Anyways, all right, anything else on that? The drone maintenance and supplies, that's, the part that's coming out of there that we've already spent was the $480. That is for air data. What that does is every time that drone launched, it keeps a record of it. So it knows when it went up, where it flew, has a pattern, so if somebody calls and complains that you're flying your drone over and you're looking in my window, or you're doing this, or you're doing that, this calculates all of that. The reason it's 3,000 is because there's some in there for batteries. We haven't had to have batteries yet, who knows when they're gonna run out, plus we couldn't buy any, but they're coming from China, so we've had a hard time getting them anyways. But if we don't buy batteries, that extra money will not be spent on anything else. I think we purchased some rotors.
Rotors and a couple bearings.
Yeah.
They just wear out.
So. Live 911, we are getting rid of that. So the money that's in that line item this year will not be spent, and it's gonna be taken out for the next budget. And I'm asking for that line item to be changed to a community policing line item. With our accreditation, we are required to have a community policing program. We've been working on it. We have a plan built. So I talked to the mayor about this. We could put 1,000 in there. We could put, I don't really care what we put in there to start. But what I will be asking is, in a council meeting coming up, my plan would be any of the firearms and stuff that we have in evidence that can be sold. We can use that money as long as the council approves the plan and it's for the use of, or for the good of the community. Did I say that right? Okay. So any of those proceeds, I would ask, and Jill has the answers of how it goes. It can't go right into the line item, but I would ask that money to be put back in that community policing to use it for stuff like that. MDC and air cards, that's our computer, Wi-Fi stuff. Mental health, that's a state requirement. That one, I also talked to the mayor about. We really didn't have a really good gauge on what you spend in that, so we are gonna be over this year. It depends on how many people go in and use that service. We're also required to have that by the state, and we're required to carry it for retired officers. So is it 10 years, Brody, that we have to keep it, do you remember? 5, 10 years after,
I thought it was
for
10.
retired?
Wasn't it 10?
I know they changed it from lifetime to something else. Anyhow,
It was-
so if somebody retires, they can use that for so many years, so it's hard to guess what we're gonna use out of that, and so that's the increase for that. Grant expenditures is just a wash. Equipment, we talked about taking the 5,000 and moving to the training. Computer equipment, we're on a program where we rotate our computers, at the direction of our IT people. Versaterm maintenance, it says WatchGuard on the side, I'd like to get rid of the Versaterm.
I know.
WatchGuard is the money that pays for our programs that run our body cams and car cameras. That's what's paid out of that line item. Most of our car cameras and body cameras, we are getting for a fairly good, we get a grant, and the only thing the grant won't pay for is the warranty and the software and the cables and stuff. So, I'm trying to remember the numbers. Do you remember the numbers I sent you, Roger? I think we paid $3,000 for 2 car cameras, and they paid
The grant was 15, and I think the cost
so
was 18.
$18,000 worth of cameras, we paid 3,000 of it. We usually get 2 of those a year. We haven't paid for a whole camera in any of these cars. Body armor, that's in conjunction with the body armor grant that we have. So if you get in on the right day and submit it and their program works, they pay for 50% of our body armor.
Let me ask you on that, is that a grant that continues to happen, or?
We have to keep applying for it, but, so in order to get that grant, you have to have a mandatory wear policy, which we have, and they don't make it difficult to get it, they make it difficult to get your money back. So, yeah, but it helps, right? Anything we can get, if they're gonna pay for some, great. And then the alcohol enforcement, the beer tax, that's money received from the state every year. That money can be saved and rolled over. Okay, but the only thing that money can be used for is anything for alcohol enforcement, alcohol training. It has to be something to do with alcohol.
That would be one of those restricted funds.
Now, is that coming from a portion of the sales tax for restaurants, or that we have here that sell?
So we have restricted funds. The state gives us beer tax money, for that purpose. It has to be used strictly for that. Comes in with that title.
So it's not calculated based on what we may be receiving from, you know?
To be honest, I'd have to talk to the state. They told me once, and I don't remember, to be honest. For the record,
I thought you
I've
remember
been in this
everything.
position, how long have I been in this position, Brody?
At least now.
I've been done the treasurer, but
So the
Yes.
seatbelt line item, that's a pass-through as well. We do seatbelt shifts, but they're paid through by the state. We pay it first, the state reimburses us, so it's just a pass-through account on that. The UEDL, or EUDL, used to be our youth alcohol task force. This has been on the budget forever, and it hasn't been used. I'm just asking to get rid of that. And other than that, there should be no other changes. The alcohol enforcement highway safety is also a pass-through account. Those are alcohol shifts. We usually get them, the grants through the state. We have DUI shifts for the Super Bowl coming up. The officers work them. We pay it, they get reimbursed. So we fill out a sheet, and then quarterly we get reimbursed. Those we get, that's not a problem. And then SWAT, and we haven't, that line item hasn't changed forever either. I mean, if you wanted, we could take out $404, but there's that little bit of extra in there.
Any other, do you guys have any questions?
I think you've answered them as we've gone down.
Okay.
Maybe I just have one. As you look at the budget that you prepared, you know, in this, what is your main goal as the police chief you want to see accomplished based on your budget?
Well, you're wanting to provide public safety, you're gonna make public safe and also keep the officers safe while they're doing it. That's the end of the story.
I think there's some residual effects that happen that sometimes you can't put a cost to it. During the Santa, and you guys were coming up and down the street, one of your policemen pulled over right in front of my house with its lights on and stopped. Some people were walking down the sidewalk, which I think they freaked out. And then you handed them a present and wished them a Merry Christmas.
Santa parade?
Or I think it was, well, maybe not the Santa parade, but something during Christmas time. And the police officer just stopped and was talking to people on the sidewalk, wishing them a Merry Christmas.
We have a bunch of good officers and I don't
I don't know who.
I don't know who that was, I don't
know, but
anything
it was
about
one of those spontaneous things that just happened in the right time, and I looked up and I thought, okay, what is the message being sent here?
You know, the guys that you have working here, the guys and ladies that you have working here, they want to be in the city. We talk about being competitive, we talk about a lot of things. We are not the highest paid. But for whatever reason, people still want to work for us. Our last 4 hires all took pay cuts to come to Harrisville. They all are happy to come to work. They enjoy being here. We have a good culture. And when you have officers that are happy at work, that's the way they treat their public. It's a proven fact. There's studies and studies show that if an officer's in a bad place, they're not happy, they don't want to be there, that's when your complaints and your lawsuits and all that stuff start happening. So we have a good crew, we really do. I've never seen a bunch of people that work as well together as they do. I would suggest that any of you that don't know them, please come out and talk to them, get to know them, go ride with them. But we have excellent officers. You know, you get in bigger departments and people say, well, we're small, we're this. We still handle the same kind of calls. We still have the same kind of risks. These officers still have all the same stuff. But I will tell you this, in bigger agencies, they have traffic units, they have detectives that come out and do sex cases. They have all these things. These guys are handling all their own calls. They're well-rounded. They're not specific to one type of area. So
I can tell you from my end, from the time that I came in and introduced myself to now, I've utterly enjoyed my conversations with Chief Wilson. And my respect level has gone up immensely from where it started. And I think he's been doing a great job. So thank you.
well, and it's like I told the mayor, I would like to have a relationship with all of you. I'd like to be able to, I'm a very blunt person. I don't beat around the bush. That's not me. If you don't want to know the answer, don't ask the question, type of thing. So, right? I would rather be just upfront with each other and be able to trust each other, and we can go back and forth. And if we have a conversation, sometimes that needs to stay with us. And you know,
Well, at Nicolette, Roger, I sat down and we talked a little bit about shifts and how things work and all that type of stuff. And you know, he lives in Plain City. I don't have a problem with that.
I didn't know that.
right around the corner from where he grew up.
But, you know, one of the things, and I think this is maybe my point of view versus other neighborhoods, I have a very unique neighborhood where I have people going up and down the street who knows who they're talking to, because they have no device in their hand, and they have nothing in their ears, but they're talking to everybody that's not around. Everyone can hear it. And you know, we have, well, I guess you'd call it a halfway house at some point, and we have a mental facility next door, and we have homeless that sleep on the berm at the Walmart across my daughter's house. And you know, all those things that we experience in the neighborhood, but yet we've not had problems. I mean, I say that caveat. I've been burglarized 3 times, but that's over the time frame of the clientele who go up and down the street. But it's still a very, you don't worry or fear because of how the police are present and doing the things they do.
We also spend a lot of time training in mental health issues too. We have a partnership with some autism partners that we train differently. Next time we have one, we'll invite you. But the lady we work with, she'll bring some of her people with them that are maybe more functioning. But it's probably one of the most interactive classes that our department goes to. But the kids ask the officers questions. It goes back and forth, and we get to learn from each other. And it's really a pretty cool thing. Plus, we do the sensory Santa thing here. And, we had a barbecue at the
Cookout on the spectrum at the
thing
park.
with people that were invited, and not just our community, everybody. We want to get to know those people. The better we can deal with those people and know what we're looking at, it might not be a use of force issue. So we spend a lot of time on that kind of training as well. We spend a lot of time on training in our department. We get made fun of by agencies around us that's all we do, but it's important. So,
Thanks, Mark.
yep.
Brian, you're up.
Okay. Let's start with parks. So I do this, what I just handed you for a couple different reasons. Most of my career here has been working out of a 10 fund, which is the general fund. And so I think it's good for all of you. I like to create this packet because this goes into a lot of detail about what I'm asking for, specifically what portions of the money that I'm asking for go to. I don't have, we talk about some cushion or some slush. I don't have a lot of that, or if any, in this Parks and Recreation budget. It's pretty much just cut and clear what I'm asking for and what it's for. So let's probably just start at the top. You'll see probably some pretty big decreases in this one, and then you'll see some other bigger or larger increases in some of the Public Works one. Jill and I have met multiple times over the last several weeks, and we're trying to come up with a good idea of how we can mix both department funds and what makes the most sense. So you'll see some of that here. Hopefully some of the like employee benefits and stuff, some of those answers are probably or questions have already been answered. Uniform allowance went up a little bit. In Parks and Rec, we've been doing a $500 a year uniform allowance. It's been okay. It seems that I just wanted to increase it to $750. I started looking at the Public Works budget. Some of those, I found some discrepancies there. Some of them were $900. Some of them were $1,200. There was one that was $1,500, which I thought was really excessive. So I bumped up the Parks and Rec employees to $750 a year, and then I dropped some of the Public Works guys down also to $750.
So was there, remind me, Brian, was there restrictions regarding what those uniforms are?
The restrictions, I guess in my opinion, would be up to city council, because we've had city councilmen say if you can wear it, it's a uniform, period. And so if you can put it on your body, then it's part of uniform. We've had people buy Leathermans, Gerbers with it, boots, hats, socks, anything. Safety vests, safety coats, hard hats, stuff like that. So that's, I guess we'll use that to how we're allowed or how we're told we can use it. Okay. Jump down to.
So if you don't mind me asking,
Yeah.
I'm just looking here. So how many full-time employees are there?
So including me, there's 10 total right now.
This is for Public Works and Parks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Parks,
Yeah.
the employees have specific budgets.
So if we were
that
just
come
saying
out,
parks,
you know,
is this just part, is this?
Yeah, there's just 4 the lead, the recreation coordinator, and 2
Okay.
employees.
Okay.
So this would be for 4. Yeah. And then you'll see in the other public works budgets too, there's, they have their own uniform line item in that budget, which there's 5 or 6 different ones. I didn't want to say 6, 7. So equipment, you can see on your paper, which is why I do this, you can see exactly what we use this for. 14,000 of that 26,000. We're in the second year of a 3-year plan for some playground maintenance and repair, replacement parts, things like that. So that's what that's for. We took some of the buildings. We took some buildings money from the parks. It was buildings and grounds. Took the building portion and put it over to the public works side. So that 1071,260 is just grounds now for the parks. And again, it's all itemized. I don't know if you want to go through everything. This is yours. You can take it. I'm in the process of doing the exact same thing for public works for those budgets. So you can review it and you see for the most part exactly where things are going. So let's just jump down to the portable restrooms of that 41,450. You can see that 9,700 of that is for the portable restrooms. We run 4 during the summer months, April through October, and then we just run 3. This is the first year we did it through the winter, but we run 3 through the winter time. So park restrooms have been a discussion over the times, through the ages. So I'll just take direction as city council wants to discuss that, think about it, and we'll do what we're told. If we want to open them, then we'll open them. That's up to you guys.
I know I talked to, we don't have to go dwell on it too long, because I'm sure it'll be coming up again, but I talked to West Haven mayor, and they went to cement bathrooms.
Cement?
Cement.
You get the Forest Service, it's just brought in as one unit
Yep.
and dropped down, and it's about,
So there's not
Porcelain,
porcelain, there's
No porcelain?
Yeah, it's all concrete.
it's about 120,000 last time I looked.
I know, when I asked, I was talking to him and the North Ogden mayor and Pleasant View. Pleasant View Mayor Steve Gibson, they've had a lot of vandalism in their bathrooms as well. And I said, well, you guys looked at stainless steel? And he said, well, yeah, but you can buy 10 porcelain toilets and have them replaced for the cost of one stainless steel one. So, I don't know, it's a nightmarish thing. He did talk about the police having more of a routine of checking them, but I don't know how you can keep it.
Yeah.
Somebody catching them on fire or doing what you talked about the other day.
Yeah, and
It's a mess.
I can just throw a plug in for our PD. If there's anything wrong, we get emails like that second. They do extra patrols and they're off handling their calls and doing reports and stuff, but we see them in our parks all the time. But yeah, you're not gonna catch everything. I can say that one Millennium Park across from Orion, that turns into just a Slough and school hangout spot whenever those are open, but it happens.
And I think, Grover, you made a comment or something, you've been talking about this before as a council,
Well, and the last time we talked about this, it was a one decision of repair cost versus portable, honey bucket. And it was almost, if I'm right saying, it was almost 6s.
Well, the reason we started closing them, if I remember right, was because they got hit really, really heavy one time. And if I remember right, it was $4,000 to $5,000 for somebody professionally to come in and clean them. They were being hit regularly, just not that bad though. So at that point in time, yeah, the council decided to close them until hopefully we get cameras, and then that opens up another avenue there when to open them. But
I mean, it's nice to have those, and when we are having our activities over there, I know they're open,
yeah,
and that's a great thing.
yeah, they're open for our events. They're open for Bowery reservations.
But,
That's about it right now.
But when it comes down to off-season things, I know people hate them, but it also saves money in vandalism problems. Maybe the cement Forest Service thing is
shut down. They lock them up for the winter.
Yeah, winter, we pretty much have to
Takes
winterize
one to
them.
stick on one.
But I would, and we'll talk about it later, I'm sure, but I would recommend that we keep porta potties during the winter months.
I think it's safe.
Yeah, Far West does, Smith Family Park's got a couple of porta potties,
Just keeps people from going in the weeds.
yeah, or just going around the corner of the bathroom by the front door and just doing it right there. Or up, like literally up on the stage of the Bowery in the corner. Like, it's a public park, we find it everywhere, so. Yeah, so that's $9,700 in that. Travel and training, we did bump that a little bit. We're going through a pesticide applicator course with a ornamental turf subcategory. We're gonna have CEUs for that, continuing education units. So I put another training for that. It's all itemized. You can see what's local, what's ones in St. George. You can read through that.
I just make one correction.
Sure.
Xeriscape is not a word.
You know,
It's Xeri.
you're gonna get along with Kevin really well. He's a horticulturist, and he's told me that before. But
Yeah, it's a Greek word meaning
Zero.
dry.
Zero.
Yeah. Zero means you don't do anything.
Yeah,
They're actually both words now.
really.
Oh, they've gone?
They've added it, and there is a distinction.
Zero means you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, there's a percentage of like xeriscape that everyone mispronounces with low water uses, but xeriscape is used now by the engineers and the planning people. And it's,
Zero skate means that there's nothing that needs water.
yeah. Well, there's certain things that qualify, but it's super minimal.
Well, I think we're talking about zero.
Xeri.
Yeah. So,
At least with the rest of it, that's what, you say shrubs, rocks, trees.
yeah. Field maintenance that's all pretty standard over the years. Splash pad, pretty big decrease there. There was $16,000 in there last year, and the reason there was $16,000 in there this year is because I was having a hard time getting the guy to send me the invoice for the feature that we had paid for. So I didn't think we were gonna get the invoice before July 1st of last year, so I put it in again, and I ended up getting the invoice and paying for it. So we didn't use that $16,000. It comes out, drops down to a $7,000 annual, which is where it's been for quite a while. Motor, pool, fuel, office supplies, you can see all of that. Youth baseball and softball. I had asked for additional funds. We're trying to, I guess no pun intended, stay ahead of the game on recreation. We've got so many, as you know, so much development coming in. We're a little concerned, number one, for where we're gonna play games, number two, how we're gonna have, all the equipment for them. So last year I did spend quite a bit of money on building new equipment bags and upgrading a lot of what we had, which was literally 20+ years old. I think we're gonna stop there, so we're gonna decrease that 9,000. We're just gonna drop it down to the 7,000 like it usually is. And we're usually right around 3,400 for uniforms, and then whatever's left over, we still have some left over to buy equipment with. So
So I have a question. Are we finding, you have a certain window that you advertise for things. Are we finding more people coming, or versus having fields, like softball fields, versus the basketball I know we do over at Orion?
yeah.
Are there any communications going on with Orion that we could actually use softball fields during the summer?
We have not asked them about softball fields, no.
Well, I guess if we have more people that are starting to come or want to advertise it, obviously, then you'd have to have some type of land.
Yeah.
And part of what I'm thinking is if we can communicate with them, and that's an option, that might be an area where right now we're challenged with a swampland, that you can't put a baseball field in.
Right.
That's
Yeah, it's
another-
certainly something to look
Greg
into.
and I talked about that's another story.
Well,
Yeah.
it makes me wonder too, is like, it seems as though, like the Weaver County Fairgrounds, or Weaver, recreation centers, they don't seem to be really filling up with enough teams. Is there where you can do more of a community effort through the Weaver County side don't necessarily offer it through Harrisville. I mean,
Yeah.
I just throw that out as a thought, just
Yeah.
because, you know, we spend money on that kind of stuff, and, I mean, we talked about it on January 2nd or whatever day it was, but you know, we're providing a service for a small group of people, and I get it, and I think we need to try to provide things to those that, but how much is it worth?
Right.
Right, and how much of it should they pay for versus how much is the city gonna pay for?
And I think we're somewhat lockstep too, and you and I talked a little bit about that. We got X amount of fields, and we got X amount of courts. And all of a sudden you're advertising for this amount, and it fills up, then you have to stop, because
Well-
you have no place to put them.
It's difficult because because I'm not over the recreation necessarily anymore. Kelly is tasked with a hard position, because we had a city council member that, you know, years ago that came in and she says, I want a flyer in every single kid's hand.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. We made the flyers, we took them to the schools, I counted them out, 25 for each teacher's box. Teachers gave them to their kids went home, and the program blew up. I know we're playing. So at the end of the day, we're capping teams. I mean, it's open to anybody, right? But at the end of the day, we end up capping teams at a certain number because we don't have facilities or fields to play them on. So it's a struggle.
Yeah, I think the potential is there, but obviously it's gotta be a give and take, and it's still a service. Bottom line is,
Yeah.
we're paying for something, but I know it's a good community effort that all of a sudden Harrisville gets support, because we're doing something for it. I think it's a win-win situation if it's handled right, but I'm happy to work with schools.
Maybe what we need to do is take the splash pad out and put the softball field back there.
Now you're speaking my language.
I will second that right here.
Part of the ballgame, yeah.
Well, I mean, I have a little bit of a pet peeve with the splash pad, because I think we support a lot of the other communities more than we do our own. But I can't verify that number.
I can agree that we supply the daycares a place to have a field trip, 100%, and it kills us. But yeah. Okay. Youth basketball, you'll see that over the years fluctuates all the time. It just depends on how many. We have our own uniform jersey inventory, so whatever goes out, we just replace it next year. Sometimes it's 900, sometimes it's 2,000. It just depends on how many kids come and play, how many jerseys go out. Sand at the cabin, you can see the breakdown there. I'll just throw a quick note in for you guys. What we learned this last time, the parade, we can't necessarily start the parade any sooner because kids aren't out of school and the parents don't necessarily have to be home, but the kids won't want to be home from school yet. So we can't start the parade sooner, but what we're running into is, it gets 6 o'clock and it's dark, and now you can't even see Santa. We added the Grinch this time on the back of the fire truck, which he got more. It was great. It was awesome. He got more, attention than Santa did, but it's dark and you can't even see him. So the second half of that Santa deal is the meet and greet here, and everybody has a different opinion. Years ago, the mayor at the time didn't want to even advertise it. It was whoever knows about it comes, and it was very low attended then. Now we advertise it, in my opinion, very well. It's still really low attended. I bet we probably had 20 families this last year, or this last December. It's just a thought. My thought process is maybe do we do away with the meet and greet because it's not that successful. If we move that from Friday night, which we've tried different nights of the week, we tried a couple of different time frames. It's a busy time and it just doesn't seem to help, the numbers coming here. But if we did away with the meet and greet Friday, move the parade to Saturday afternoon after the cops do their Shop of the Hero, and only do a parade, because the other issue we have is there's so many new roads coming into Harrisville. We've got to start incorporating some of those roads too, and we will this year. We've had the same map for 3 years. We'll add more to it this year. The parade's going to become longer, and I just personally think the parade is kind of a little bit bigger of a hit than the meet and greet at the cabin. So just something to think about.
Yeah, and I think when you start looking at opportunities for activities, is that something the council wants to continue with the Santa at the cabin versus another activity at some other time of the year? Because let's face it, Christmas is very busy. I mean, Ogden City, they put together that huge parade, which I think everybody in the world goes to, you know, as they open up their park. And then are we just piling on to that particular thing and then only getting, you know, 20 families out of 2,700 families, right? I mean, it's a small number, but and I think that was one where the youth city council takes part of it too, right?
They do. The youth city council will take part in anything.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'll throw it out there that I let them take part in, and I say it that way because they're not all reliable. So I can't put them in charge of things that I need bodies at when they don't show up. So
Well,
I'm careful on that, but
And I think that at the end of the day, if the city council comes back with another direction, I think Brian's totally fine with it.
I do what I'm told.
So-
Yeah, I love creating new events. I also love keeping the ones that I spend a lot of time on. Whatever, we'll do what we're told.
We'll just have your family come do that.
And they love it too. Easter egg hunt, it just increased just a little bit. I just added 500 eggs for the smaller age group. That's really been successful. You know, I can tell you, there's a lot of Harrisville residents and there's a lot of non-Harrisville residents. It's huge. That has grown really tremendously over the last couple of years. Fall Festival, that's what we spend there. We haven't, I highlighted that 1650, we haven't been spending that on porta potties, but we're getting to the point where, you know, if you have 1,000 people hang out for longer than 2 hours, then it requires a mass gathering permit. So I think we're there. We probably snuck by last year. So we'll probably spend that whole lot this year if that's the way it happens. And you can see there, books and memberships, media, movies in the park. The reality is we only spend about $2,200 of that $3,200. It depends on how much you pay for the movie rights to show. I usually try to stay in the $600 each range, and you can go up to $1,200 or even $1,500 for the permission to show that movie. So
Now, that's one that you're rotating between cities, right?
we do. There's only been one. It was this last year, I think, 1 month that we had the same movie night as a Pleasant View. Didn't seem to affect our numbers. Also, keep in mind there's so many factors with a movie in the park: weather, heat, rain, wind. We've cut our screen down twice the last few years because the wind just picks up and it's a sail. Mosquitoes. There's a number of. The movie title is a big one. So that's a really hard one to predict on whether or not people are going to come out. But my answer remains the same on a lot of these events. Whoever comes has a good time. If you want numbers, that's one that's not super attended as well. Fireworks, breakdown on that. Just remember that fireworks, we pay for the next year's fireworks right after the last show. So the 2026 October show has already been paid for. Not to say we couldn't move the date, and not to say they wouldn't give us a refund. I don't know what that looks like. It's certain, all we can do is ask. But so those fireworks have already been paid for. Community forestry, I upped just a little bit, well, by a couple $1,000s. We have, I want to say it's an ordinance. Kevin is my parks lead. He's the horticulturist, arborist kind of guy. He's looking into this. I think it's an ordinance, but we're supposed to be replacing, for every one tree we take out, we're supposed to be planting 3. And we have not been doing that. The last 2 or 3 years, we planted 2 per tree, but we're not quite there yet. So it just gives kind of a little bit of a, not really a breakdown, but you could, to have a stump grinder could be $2,000. It just depends on the circumference of the tree and how big it is. So that budget gets eaten up really, really quick. Moving on, just in the miscellaneous.
So on the park impact fees, now that's something that's done by building permit.
Yes.
Received by that, so you really don't know what to put in there for.
Then that's also one of those restricted items.
Right.
So how impact fees work is, we have to pay for a study They have to look at, what projects we have and where and everything of that it would, impact. And once that analysis is back, that's one thing that does go in front of council to either accept, as I think most of you guys were there when we did this the last one. And then any new building, not accessory building, but new, commercial or new, commercial would be a park. But essentially, that's how impacts work, just new commercial
Any
or new
residential
homes. So say I have a home and I'm gonna remodel and I wanna do, and I have to do a building permit, I don't have to pay that impact fee again. It's a one-time shot. When that home is built, that's where you get it, and that, I can't go after that house again. So those type of expenses can only be used on those projects that were within that plan and that analysis. It can't be used for anything outside of that plan. So, for example, Dixon Creek Park is part of that plan, so we would have to use any impact fees for that specific project with the amount that they've allotted. If it costs more or things like that, that's something that we talk with the auditor, or the state auditors, to make sure it's still within that realm.
It's very narrow.
So that kind of leads me to maybe one, well, I'll do the question later, after you're done.
Okay. Okay, so miscellaneous, I try to leave, like $2,500 in there. I call it community event growth. Cause you never know, everything we do, with, I guess, with, not the movies in the park, but everything we seem to do gets a little bit bigger every year. So just gives a little bit of a, I guess if I had a bit of a cushion, that would be the fund for that. Employee engagement, we do for every employee in the department, we do up to $100 gift card, or they can go purchase something for themselves up to $100 for Christmas, and that's a department gift. And then the leftover money in that is used for maybe some training. If we have a training all day, we'll get some snacks or something for that, or maybe 2 or 3 times a year we'll take everybody to Jeremiah's and do breakfast or something. That's what, and talk about work, of course, because we're at work. So that's what that's used for. Ramp expenditures, we added this line item because Ramp gives us a per capita grant every single year, and I hope they continue to do it. But that grant would come in, but it wasn't liquid to me, and so we just added this, and whatever the grant money is, that's what this line item becomes. And so right now it's liquid to me, and then the grant comes in. I would assume goes to the general fund eventually.
It's
And-
part of that restricted type of,
Okay,
because it has
so-
to be.
So we get the money and it goes where it needs to go, but this fund makes it liquid for their use. So that's the Parks and Rec. Like you can see, I'm fairly detailed on it, so you know exactly what I'm paying where. We're not that I'm not as concerned about.
So before you jump into public works, so my questions are the parking, right?
Yeah.
So do you have an overall plan and a schedule of improvements to the park and existing facilities and that, and a time frame of what you need to budget to accomplish that goal in a certain time frame? So if you set out, so for this park, our goal in the next 5 years are these improvement, and this is how we're going to approach each year in doing that.
Yeah, the only thing we have right now for that is playground equipment, where Kevin's put together kind of a schedule on when we would replace playground equipment. That's about it. I can tell you right now, with the staff we have in the parks, and this was with me actually going out, and so 5 of us on one day this week, because I would go out and mow and trim and help them. We mow, trim, and blow Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning. So that leaves the rest of Thursday and Friday to do projects. And that's what we were really trying to solidify, this year, because they were going out and everybody's kind of scatterbrained and just getting as much as done as they can, but some of it's 50%, some of it's 75%. And so I told them, I says, let's focus on doing what we're doing 100%, so it's done right and it looks good, and then we know whatever's left that we can't get to. And And so that's what we did this year, and that's what we found out with, I mean, right now with the turf that we have to take care of and stuff, that's where we're at. So as new parks come in, there's no question we're gonna need another staff to help maintain those. But to answer your question, just with playgrounds is the only thing we have. Because, and I guess I throw that other caveat in there because we don't, it's good to plan 3-5 years down the road, but it honestly just hasn't been on the forefront. We just are trying to maintain what we have. So, good idea though, obviously, to have some projects and how you wanna improve.
Well, cause like I was looking at, so the forestry, so what determines how, without a plan, how you're gonna make the most benefit of the trees?
Yeah.
Instead of just, I'm gonna pluck a tree here,
Yeah.
what's the purpose of that?
Yeah, so ideally, when we take a tree out, we try to plant at least 2 close proximity to where that one was, because there was one already there in the first place. And then we literally just go out and look at different places of where to plant them. We look at what, and Kevin's kind of the tree guy, but he knows what the canopies are and the heights and things like that. The water they need and clay, all of that stuff. So we don't necessarily have a plan that identifies that. We're just keeping up with what's dying, we're taking out, and then replacing where they were, for the most part.
And then the reference, so with the impact fee, what plan is there on those parks to say this is what the impact fee would cover? And then second question of that, are impact fees still considered as what is the new growth adding? So that's what you're figuring out, that knowing that the general fund then covers what else is needed for the existing population, and figuring how that expenditure goes to the park.
So, great question, how the impact fee studies look at, okay, here's our standards, this is what they want everything to look like in a park. And each impact, the studies are a little bit different because it caters to what
That type
it's
of park
for.
is.
So for example, with the parks, they look at the standards, this is kind of where the plan of the parks are. And then they look at projects that are currently getting through the review process or things like that. So they look at, okay, Dixon Creek has X amount of lots, and this is their park that we've got. They look at Ashler Cove and Copperwoods, and they look at all of that and put it in a nice program that Zion's right now is the one that is the biggest person that does that. They put it in their program and they say, okay, here's what it costs approximately. That's where the state auditors have said sometimes with the studies that are so, because they last about 5 years,
Right.
that they want you to start another one, is because the cost kind of changes and it fluctuates. But they say, okay, here's approximately how much it would cost for this type of standard. So they put it in their calculator and they say, okay, this home, your standard, and it's gonna be X amount. And so then that's when it comes to you guys, and you guys say, okay, we agree with that amount, or we can lower it. And it's a flat rate, except for when it comes to the commercial side. Parks does not get an impact fee for
Correct.
commercial. But like stormwater, sewer, things like that, it's based off of
The unit, it's a unit.
a unit. Yes, so depending on how many units versus that's what it would be, and that's how they calculate it based on that. Does that kind of help? So
That-
they have their plan, and if you
But
wanna
get
look
the-
at one,
Yeah, I'd love to see it, 'cause
we've got quite a few that are current and active, and we're actually getting ready to restart, because it's a cycle,
right.
but yeah.
And then is there anything in the budget, and this again maybe is about planning, we see the ramp grant based on population, but do we ever go after ramp grants for legacy projects or that?
We've gone after like major grants for like the splash pad. They have
Uh-huh.
easy grants we can get into for, their $2,000, whatever. We do look into other grants like that, yes. And have received other grants like that.
I I will tell you, each department has someone that they actually go out and really look and try and get grants. They have them, I don't know when the next meeting is, but Jack's in there, Nick's does it for the PD, Glenn does it for Public Works, and I would assume.
Kevin does too.
Yeah, for parks, so they're actively trying to look, doesn't mean that we fit in all of them.
Well, I know the competition for ramp each year is it, but every year there's a competition that if you don't submit, then
And
you don't
you gotta
have a
have
plan.
letters from the
Yeah.
Yeah.
other cities.
Yeah, we've done all that. We've had the letters of support. Some of them we win, some of them we don't, but,
You had mentioned some of the things about some of the, like, events that go on or activities that go on, and some that are not that are not as popular as others. And of course, the movies in the park is one of those events.
Yeah.
What would it take, or do you think there would be an idea behind this? There's been a number of the cities around us that do, they kind of do an activity twice a month where they have food truck night events that actually bring in and support, and they get tax dollars from it.
So how that works, I can answer that one.
Yeah.
Is if that's what we wanna do, I'd probably either have me or my employee Melissa get with the health department and say, okay, we wanna do an event type thing, and she would either her or I would have to come out every time we do it to have them fill out information, so that way the sales tax can come back to us. It would just be for that night.
Right, special event. Because the ones that I have been to that are around this, they've been fairly well attended, probably better than the movies in the park, and it seems like it would take less staff, less support. I don't know
I
what
see
it would
them
be.
at Smith Family Park regularly during the summer, food truck Thursday or Tuesday, whatever they
Yeah.
call it. Yeah, it's well attended from what I see.
Yeah.
But, yeah, certainly.
And it'd be a revenue generator rather than an expense line item.
Yeah, something to look into.
Is that something you guys wanna talk about and then let us know what it would look like? Just let us know.
Okay.
Ready to go to the next one?
Yeah, let's go to public works maintenance.
Yours or the specific?
Mine. Salary and wages, benefits. Building and grounds did increase because we took the parks portion away from the parks and gave it to the public works. Motor pool, vehicle was sold out of that. And Christmas employee engagement is up because we moved that from parks. Any
Yours-
questions on that?
Yours is a little smaller.
Yeah. Any
It's-
questions on that? Oh, uniform allowance on that one, uniform and safety. Glenn, my assistant director, his uniform and mine both come out of this line item. I was okay doing 1,000 for us where we have meetings and maybe we can buy a nicer pair of pants here and there or whatever, so we'll do whatever we're told, but that's why that's, 1,000 each instead of 750. But any questions on any of that?
Looking for equipment.
So equipment will be in here, cause the equipment will be, whether it's roads, stormwater, sewer, specifics. This is just a blanket for the public works in general, that's why you have the buildings. That's why we moved the park building from the park to this, so it encompasses all the buildings.
have a list of,
So do we know how it aligns where, is it an increase or a decrease when it's been combined? That's hard to see visually when you change it like that.
So
Is there a way to have that
we have this.
visually shown?
It was originally at 35. We increased it 15. Where's my parks? There it is. So we went, and it decreased, not as much because he had projects that were for the grounds. That's why it's still up a little bit. It decreased, but essentially as these projects kind of finish, it'll go back down and have just the annuals until these projects come back, and it'll kind of do them.
Is there a problem with having the Parks and Recreation budget and the Public Works budget all on the same sheet? I mean, I know historically, because you had the Public Works and you had Parks and Recreation.
It's easier to kind of see what everything is. It's better to have them separate. So that way, I mean, you can see what the grounds are, the parks, and then you have Public Works, and then you have your utility type. So are we talking like,
I mean,
we call it,
in my mind, I'm looking at it
61.
going, well, Public Works and the Parks and Rec are all the same thing. I mean, that's.
so.
But in your guys' world, I don't know how that looks. And I see it in the budget form here.
Budgeting, it's better to have it this way. Roads, we have to have separate from parks because we have to treat them different. Roads, we have B&C class funds coming in, we have transportation tax. These parks cannot use it, they can't, because there's restrictions.
Okay.
yeah, you're gonna see there's multiple individual budgets, roads, sewer, stormwater, leads in with roads, but Parks and Rec, they're all their own budget.
So you really haven't got a lot to overlap.
We're trying to make it very
So
clear.
you're trying to keep them separated, so this year probably is separation and.
We've combined a couple this year, a few maybe, and maybe next year we'll do a few more, what makes sense. For me, on my end, this makes complete sense. However you, I mean, we could change this to however you guys wanted to do it. I'll still do what I do, because that's how I have to separate it out, but.
So is it, let me kind of follow up on what Roger was saying, so in this Public Works maintenance, so it's a 10 general fund item, the next one is, do they have different call numbers, 60?
Roads. So anything with the 10 before the dash is general fund.
Right.
That middle part is a subsection of the general fund. So it's, you have admin, it's 44, council's 41, court's 42, parks
So I guess what I'm saying
71.
is Parks was one, and this is one.
Yep.
So that if you, it really kind of helps, so you're not just saying, oh, I'll move this to this, because now I have to do a budget opening to change the line item from one to another.
Mhm.
Whereas if it's all combined, it's, oh yeah, I'll just try to put here and this there, without going through another budget opening process.
The goal with the budget is to be very transparent, and the more, for example, back in the day, a lot of people just put everything in miscellaneous for projects. That's not very clear
And you
and
got-
hard to report exactly what the funds are used for. So we have these specific items, projects, or depending on if it's a, grounds or building, or if it's a roads project, it really needs to come out of that specific type of budget.
So I'm looking at your motor pool payments.
Oh, and the roads?
Yeah, the roads right there, where it says 204%, you made payments. But then over the side note, you said 2 plow trucks side by side split with parks.
So, go ahead.
Anything with the general fund. So again, Fund 10, those vehicles are pulled from
Two different spots.
the motor pool. And these departments are paying the motor pool payments every month. So, one of the plow trucks, the roads are gonna pay. One of the, others, the parks is gonna pay.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, it does. I
But
just
the motor
trying to
pool-
understand it.
The motor pool is a leasing agency, it's
It's a-
not
It's,
an enterprise fund? or
it's,
a-
it's one of our Fund 61s.
Okay.
Glad you're doing this, Chief.
It's kinda similar to the way Ogden did it, but different.
Okay.
Kind of
'Cause it was-
concept.
It was not liked by any of the employees, other than.
We don't
other
do
than
that,
the
we don't
motor
do
pool.
that with, we don't do that with, everything, it's motor pool. The funds, like stormwater, sewer, they buy their equipment
Mhm.
outright, so if they buy a truck, they buy the truck outright, they own that utility fund, owns that
Right.
equipment.
So, Brian, when I'm looking at street repair, what's your best guess estimate on that one?
That was at 150, right? West has asked for it's endless.
I
It
know.
really is endless.
That's why I say it's a guessing game.
Yeah, I mean, he'll absorb all of that money that he can within the fiscal year. It's endless. That will never stop. So I can't give you a better number than 250,000.
No, that's fine.
You know.
I'm just trying to understand how that whole thing works. Now, that money there for street repair comes out of what budget? That's general funds? Okay.
So essentially, the Class C funds that come in, we look at how much we get that year,
Uh-huh.
what it kinda can go towards, and that's how Brian's able to kinda look, okay, this project, we have this fund that came in, we can allot that to it.
So that has that's money.
That's a
actually-
restricted fund for
Okay.
that specific.
See, that's where I'm getting at. Okay?
You got it.
Okay. I mean, it's nice to see this little packet of green and red out there, but it doesn't tell me where the money's coming from.
So,
There's lots of restrictions.
so maybe the same question there too, as you explain kind of the roads repair. Is there a maintenance, road repair, road condition plan saying, this year we know we need to chip seal this and this, oh, this year we need to do an overlay, oh, this year we need to strip and relay? Do we have the plans out on each road and identify their conditions and
So-
when those times frames will happen?
Yeah, and please give me some grace because I'm new into the public works side of it, right?
Uh-huh.
I know that exists, I haven't seen it yet. I know that West, who was our roads lead, held off on a lot of work that probably should have been done because he wanted answers from a boss, from his boss. So there's some things that didn't get done this year yet, but yeah, that plan exists.
But there is a plan out there that says, here's our
I just haven't seen it yet.
maintenance and timeframes of when we see these things
Yeah.
need to happen.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll ask just another question, knowing how sometimes the general fund portion of it always gets used by other groups to cover things. Has the city delayed maintenance on roads? Plan, because another
Yes.
pressing need comes up and says, well, we'll take the money from here, put it over there.
I don't have.
Not knowing it's a C fund, but knowing it's a.
I don't have a good answer.
I can answer.
Okay.
Yes, it's too expensive.
Uh-huh.
You run out of money, so you
Yeah.
triage, you don't follow the plan. You have less engineers, but you guys, I mean, you could 10X whatever budget you have, and you couldn't keep up with that plan.
The same with utilities.
Yeah. I still need to get a good view of what that looks like.
Okay.
Call this the black hole.
The black hole?
Yeah.
You could look concrete and be white.
I know, that'd be white hole.
I missed one thing. I don't, there's some, what is a scarifier?
So a scarifier or a scarifier is basically, it's also known as a concrete planer. It really just grinds the concrete down. It's for sidewalks that are displaced, so.
To avoid tripping
Yeah.
hazards in this lawsuit.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
exactly. And there's a lot in the city, and I think it's, anything below 3/4 of an inch, we're okay milling down there, and anything above 3/4 of an inch, it's recommended to replace. But yeah, there's a lot of it. We're gonna get a sidewalk program going for inspections.
And that was also encouraged by our trust, the trust that we have, the insurance liability.
Mhm.
They have really pushed a lot of, cities to have a sidewalk
That's
plan.
been the biggest payout for the trust for cities for like the last 5 years.
Yeah,
Sidewalks.
so,
And when you have the signs and it says a quarter of city, the city, what is that?
So, let's see.
They look at a quarter.
Yeah, so a quarter of, we just wanna replace, West's plan is to replace a quarter of the city this coming year, and the next quarter, and the next quarter, and the next quarter, until the entire city's been done. And then we'll follow a plan of every 7 to 10 years of replacing those again by MUTCD standards. Instead of just doing one big push in a single year, which wouldn't be done anyway, we don't have staff to do that, so we just break it up.
And I apologize, I'm asking questions just because I'm trying to learn.
Yeah, you and me
No.
both.
So, and I appreciate all of the explanations. The thing that I don't understand is I don't understand what B and C funds are. What does that mean?
So-
And, because you have Class B and Class C.
you're looking at me, did you wanna answer?
Go ahead.
So that's this, it's amount of money that we get, I wanna say 9 payments, I think it's 9, from the state. They go off of, gas tax, right? And then the amount of roads, so it's a set amount. And let me show you, I can tell
So
you.
does like a Class B and C mean something when it comes to the roads themselves? Or,
I'm gonna show you.
I understand that it's funds that comes from the state. I just-
So,
What, and I can maybe answer this question more directly. It's a program, that's what the state titles it. What it really means is, don't touch the money anywhere else. They're super restricted, but like as far as what you can use it on, as long as it's a qualifying project on the road, you can use it, but it has to be used for the roads in the city. Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if there was like, well, this is a Class B road, this is a
No.
Class C
no,
road.
Yeah.
it's just,
It's just,
it's
it's
certain.
the title of the state program.
So like, we couldn't use Class B and C roads, to redo a park.
All right, I
There's
understand.
certain things, that's why we call them restricted.
No,
Because it's just not so.
I understand those things, I was just curious of the,
I'm pretty, don't
B
quote
and
me
C.
100%, I think B and C is the state's title for municipal road rather than
It's
state.
not what's 2,000 versus
Mhm.
Because I think ours is, I mean, they use B and C, but as I understand, C is mainly, okay, here's cities and that, B is gonna be more state or county projects.
They call them B and C roads,
Class A.
Yeah.
It is highways and
but,
federal.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I was just curious, so apologize for taking up time to
No.
No,
So,
understand
That's
those.
good.
they set aside so many payments and you get it, throughout the year. The last one's usually, if they do it right, in August, if not, beginning of September, and you can see exactly what you're gonna be getting. So you can kind of budget it a little bit better. So, that's what that is.
But that number is not included in this, because this is the general fund portion of.
So, that's part of our revenue that comes in.
Right.
We have the specific fund for it, so it has its own balance that's carried over. He looks at it and says, okay, I have this X amount of dollars that I can use for this specific type of fund.
Right.
He'll try and get it to close to that, if not right under, or depending on the projects, depends on everything. that kind of help clear it up a little?
Good question.
Any other questions on that one? Okay. Sewer? So, again, salaries and wages, each of these individual departments, will pay for their own employee or their own staff, so, that's why you're seeing that on all these different ones. We haven't changed a whole lot on this one at all. And a lot of these, I'm just, looking at last year, what did they go with, because I don't know, so what do they go with, what's working, and so we just stay with it.
Now, is sewer an enterprise fund? Because you're collecting it as a specific fee each month. So that's why.
That's why it's, so, we account for everything that comes in. So Bonavista, Vista, bless their hearts, I love them to death, they bill it for us. And then they pay us, we pay a little fee, and we collect everything. And then it goes into our fund, the expenditures are there. The goal is to, so here's what we're anticipating as revenue coming in. This is what he's anticipating as possible expenditures.
So what's the bond that's on that?
So,
I know
the
we got
bond
that
payment.
debt booklet, but I'm not sure what bond applies to what.
So, the 2022 bond is for the Public Works building. Part of that study for the impact fees housed that building. So we can use those impact fees to make those bond payments. So for example, stormwater and sewer pays for the 22 bond. It's great. So as the impact fees come in, because it's part of that plan, it can go right and make that payment.
Okay, I think I've got my questions answered for that one.
That one. And storm sewers, the same.
Oh, and just so you know, on
Where's your
the,
glasses, kid?
This is a lot.
On the sewer and the stormwater, I do have an idea of what our maintenance looks like for that. For the sewer system, we basically inspect and clean half of the city each year. And so this year will be half, and the next year will be the other half. And then we're doing some sewer manhole lining to stop infiltration too. We're currently in year 3 of a 5-year plan on that. And they're just absorbing whatever, they're just doing what they can with $35,000 of the 55 that's there.
Now, is that just doing the slip lining, or are they
It's
doing something different?
It's comparable, is it the manholes?
No, the infiltration. Are they
Well,
running
yeah.
slip line through the existing sewer
Well,
lines,
they're
or-
just, this is just for infiltration in the manhole.
Oh, the manhole,
component itself.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, but it's similar to a lining. It's, yeah, it's, I forget what the product is, but yeah, it's similar to the.
So do we have problems, is our system old enough that we're having infiltration problems in the lines themselves?
I personally have not looked in them for a long, long time, since I was Public Works way back in the day. But, I mean, I guess I can answer your question with yes, because we have this plan. So, yeah, and the more infiltration we have, of course, goes down line, and then we're paying for that there.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a problem. Haven't personally looked at it yet, but.
Seems to me, as we've talked about over the years, we're aging. I mean, the bottom line is the sewer is
Yeah.
aging.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna have to start taking that more seriously than just stick line
Yeah.
But you probably don't know the answer to this, but did we go through a series of trying different materials for sewer pipes that are now, some are failing quicker than others because we use different materials over time?
I know we still have some clay in the city. Yeah, and the other type of materials, I'm not sure what they are, but I do know that we still have some clay. questions, Jake would have every answer to that.
So that on the West Harrisville Road, is that just the sewer, that's just that stormwater drain portion? Is that right?
Yeah, there's I forget what size it is, but there's a pipe, there's a little tiny retention basin right behind that home by 800 West, right? It wasn't draining, and this isn't going to help the draining issue, but we cameraed that and saw the concrete pipe that's in there. I don't remember how big it is, maybe 20 inch. Anyway, it's failing, it's collapsing. And so now there's a little bit of a divot in the road, it's falling in. So Jones is working on a cost estimate right now, an engineer estimate, so we can get that done. So that's what that is. And it's, I mean, we're just spitballing it, 75,000. I mean, we'll, the 100,000's in there because that's what we had last year, so we're gonna stick with that, but I really have no idea how much that's gonna cost.
Some of the numbers right now aren't exactly like we're kind of
Yeah,
shooting.
fairly rough.
Because like, for example, Central Weaver Sewer usually gets us information March. So this is kind of premature, but it's at least getting the idea of what it
Yeah,
is.
it's getting something down on
as
paper
the
and
months
forward.
go, we'll have more of a better projection.
What is the Golden Spike Stormwater Coalition?
Professional and technical services.
I know we've been paying for it for a long time.
It's one of those things that we saw and it looks like it's been working, so.
Yeah,
It's always in it.
okay.
That's
I
one
can
thing
figure out what it is.
He'll dive into all those
Yeah.
as things
That's
go.
kind of those, okay, I was just curious about.
Yeah.
And I guess the same question then is we have a stormwater maintenance plan. I'm talking about where are we lacking? How are we try to phase getting those improvements in?
Yep.
Yeah, because I'm thinking when we had the big rainstorm, well, we had a couple big rainstorms this summer, but how over on the north end over Ryan, how the neighborhood was all flooded because there's no storm drain to carry the water through it. It all comes there and then stops and the street becomes a storm pond.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if we had
Yeah.
something in plans of how we're gonna address
Again,
that.
I'm not sure what that looks like yet, but yes, I mean, we have a stormwater lead, we have a sewer lead.
Is there more down below that, or is
Lead.
that
Oh,
where
yes.
that is?
So staff will have answers to these, they can get back to you.
That's the bottom of it. So, street lights and garbage, same thing.
So where do the funds come from that?
So, utility fees, we own, besides the main roads, like obviously, the highway, we own the streetlights.
So we own them, we're not leasing from Rocky Mountain?
Right.
Right, correct.
Correct. So if something happens, we gotta replace it, that's what
We're
these
responsible for it.
are for, to help maintain those. Any questions on this one? This
So
one's
we don't
listed.
have any lights that are on the Rocky Mountain schedule, I mean, on Rocky Mountains?
The traffic lights are not ours.
Right, I mean, I'm just
Or the
thinking
main-
street
We,
lights.
we have some streetlights in the city, they're not ours. Yeah, we have a map that identifies all of
It's
those.
it's on the
Quite a few.
GIS, so he knows exactly,
Okay.
pinpoints exactly which one's ours and which ones are.
It's color coded, green or ours, red or not, or whatever the case is, so.
So,
Because sometimes those are the things to take a look at to see, in the long run, we better to own them rather than keep leasing from Rocky Mountain. Because that's then the discussion with Rocky Mountain, to figure out, will they let us acquire them or and have the different rate structure? Okay.
and this also pays for the power to
For
be
the
on
lights.
lights. Garbage.
It's in and out, isn't it?
Hmm?
In and out.
been a lot of questions from people about recycling stuff. Are they really doing recycling? I mean, it's,
That would be a
we have
Jenny question.
recycling a garbage can.
I'm gonna be
but-
honest, that's a Jenny question.
Yeah, cause it.
Jenny knows more than I.
And if we were to do away with the recycling, what impact would that have? Because there's been so many things that have been published on the news that recycling stuff that they've sold for years and years, they don't actually have recycling facilities that process most of the stuff anymore.
I know I brought that up, and I believe Jenny was gonna have waste management come to
was
the
gonna say-
meeting.
Blake usually will come, he's the representative from Waste Management. There's a very deep answer, there's actually a lot of questions in there.
Yeah.
The short answer is with Waste Management though, they do recycle as best they're able with international politics.
Because most recycling goes to China, and now that,
But they, so they actually lose money on the recycling, but for whatever reason, there are other credits and things, it makes sense for them to keep doing it. And I know if you get rid of your recycling, it actually makes your garbage more expensive.
Yeah.
I know when I was at the waste garbage transfer station, I went over there and visited with John Watson as part of the WACOG meeting. And I'm sitting in their little conference room, and there's a glass door, and there's trucks coming in and dumping. And there was a waste management truck that dumped in there, and all it was cardboard. And I said, well, so they don't necessarily recycle the cardboard? He goes, no. And that was the end of the discussion. And I can tell you, what I saw with my eyes was a waste management truck, and that's why I brought it up with Jenny, because my same question was, well, I have a green can and I have a blue can, and there's a different truck that comes by and picks the blue can up, but if that truck goes to the same garbage dump,
how's it being recycled?
right, and so she was gonna get a hold of waste management, and you guys can have you can ask his questions, because that was my question when I'm sitting there seeing them.
Well, I know you talk with facilities and that, they just stacked it and then held it, because there was no market
Well,
to send it
there's-
out, so it's just.
There's a lot of challenges that are going on right now with the transfer station and Weaver County, and whether or not it's gonna stay intact or they're gonna close it down. There's a big private company, bunch of investors that have built another transfer station, and they're kinda undercutting. They bought Republic Waste. And so right now, the ball's kind of in Ogden City's hands, quite frankly, as to what's gonna happen with that. Because if they cut it, like, there's a chance that they may cut it, and then that transfer station will go away, and then we'll probably be visiting waste management for, it's just really hard, because if it goes away, this investment group could just raise the prices up for everybody, so that they can get a landfill to bring in California waste. That's all what it boils down to. So, anyways.
Thank you.
Well, on garbages, one thing to put on your radar is spring and fall cleanup. Whether or not you still want that, if you want it to come out of garbages or if you want it to come out of the general fund. If you want spring and fall, if you only want green waste, those, we just need to address those sometime soon.
Can you give us any report back from this last year?
I wasn't a part of it,
I know,
so no.
but,
He will, we can get him the information.
Yeah, I
so
can
he
get information.
and that's
Yeah,
really
we
what
just-
I'm asking, can you give us information for it?
Sure.
That question.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure we saved a lot because we didn't do with the garbage, we just did green waste,
Yeah.
so.
Well, what was the
guarantee
number
saved
we
a
looked
lot.
at? Cause when we did it at the parks, we were doing green and garbage and they were $8,000 a piece, so 16 grand a year.
So spring was about 6,000 and fall was just, I think, just barely over 5.
And that was garbage and green waste.
No, that was just green waste.
We did just green waste
We
both
did not do
times.
garbage.
So way more green waste than
where I was getting at the park.
And we,
But we didn't have to do it.
and we had somebody
Yeah.
there,
The
it was fenced off,
tires.
Yeah.
and you had to prove that you were Harrisville resident. All
Because it was behind.
positive things in my
Behind
opinion.
the.
Yeah.
public
So
works.
can I bring up something? I participated in one in the fall and, no one asked me to prove that I was a
Oh, really?
Harrisville resident.
They didn't ask you?
I mean, no, they didn't.
Wow.
So either they knew who I was or,
Maybe.
but I don't think so because, I've never seen them before in my life. But anyway, they just waved me.
Waved you through? Okay, well,
And-
we'll have to ask. If we do it that way.
Note
I just-
made.
I looked up the Golden Spike Coalition, Stormwater Coalition. And it is a coalition group made up of municipals, separate storm sewer systems operators, which include cities and local government stormwater programs. It's to educate public and the stakeholders, public engagement and outreach, eliminating illicit discharges and regulatory coordination. I mean, if we're contributing $3,000 a year, we ought to find out what they're doing for us.
Yeah.
I know Justin was all over that. He knew what every single thing was. I will be honest, I did not.
It would be interesting because I've never heard of it. I mean,
So they're educating.
I spent
Yeah.
3.5 hours with a
Maybe we
resident
can
on Saturday,
this year if we have.
getting an earful about why the city's dumping stormwater into the irrigation ditches, and I'm like,
Fridges and 13 couches.
I have it as a WACOG meeting agenda item. So I'm like, and they, according to this guy, he said you guys a $40,000 bill, and I said, well, how do you even quantify how you decided how much water the Harrisville dumped into the irrigation ditch? It's bizarre at best.
So that's all of Brian's. I know Jenny's not here.
Maybe Brody knows all about that.
I do, I'm happy to talk quiet about it.
So, I don't know,
mind public.
I don't know if you want me to run through them, or what do you want
What's
me to
that?
do? I know Jenny's not here,
I know she's had an emergency.
so.
I would just kind of go over real quick. Matter of fact, I think at the end of the day, since you're gonna be doing it again, it'd be nice if you just kind of go to a summary where you can see what you're proposing as revenue and what you have going out. And
So-
we have an idea, like say, at the end of the day, we have
Mhm.
$6,078,000 and we're gonna spend $9,400,000.
Can you scroll back up there?
So these are just categories, each category has a lot of other
I'm just looking
things
at
inside.
the categories real quick. You're
Yep.
good, go ahead. Thank you.
So our interlocal government revenue, that could fluctuate, it just depends on grants that we get. So, right now, I'm not aware that we're gonna get anything next year.
So you're not
So
putting it out.
I don't wanna count on that if we're, but we'll know probably closer to the end of the fiscal year.
Then go ahead and scroll down again. Just-
Most of the budgets are going down. Our building inspections and planning, just to kinda help you understand, every time a building permit comes in, they pay your building permit fee and your plan check fee. That actually turns around and pays our building official to review the plans and go inspect. So it's kind of a wash, so the fees will or not the fees, the amount that comes in depends on how many building permits we're gonna get. With Ben Lomond going, I'm anticipating a little higher, but that means that expenditure's gonna go up, so
Supposed to cover itself.
yeah.
Do we still pay part of our building permit fees into the state for their
That's a
training program?
requirement, or the 1%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a requirement we
Right.
have to do.
So we, for building inspections, I like better words, we farm it out, or
We go go through
Contract.
a company called Beacon. His name's Tyler.
Yeah, I know Tyler.
So, yep, he does our plan reviews, and our inspections. So homes, any type of building permit that would come in, he looks over it, or his team does, that are licensed, and make sure that everything's
Whoever-
good.
Does he ever do on-site inspections?
Mhm,
I know
that's
he has
part
to
of-
have a four-way.
Yep, depending on what type of building permit you have, depends on what type of inspection. So if it's a brand new home, you're gonna have a whole bunch more than just, we'll say, a furnace. A furnace, you're probably gonna have maybe one, maybe two, depending on the situation. Where a home, you have to stop every so often and have them come out and physically inspect as well. And then commercial is a whole other beast.
Okay, I've had one question that's actually always been on my mind, and Grover knows probably the question I'm gonna ask, but under,
Oh boy.
I don't know if it's under admin or what, but where's the mayor and city council one? Is that the 1041?
That's our 1041, let's pull that sucker up.
Can you help me understand what employee benefits are for city council?
That is your taxes.
So
It's a percentage
that's
of
what
taxes.
is being paid out for the taxes that is there?
So we have our percentage that the city has to pay,
Right.
Social Security,
Right.
the FICA,
Okay.
so.
So we'll start with X amount of dollars and then pull taxes from that. And the end result is we have enough money to buy our hamburger.
You gotta love the taxes. So that's, for example, the mayor and council have a set rate for the year, get paid monthly. We pull that, and then it gets taxed, and so it's not exactly what
Is that a state
That's right.
mandate? Is that a state mandate?
the taxes.
Well, I know that. I'm not gonna ask
It's
that.
kind of a state and federal
I'm sorry.
We're gonna become a new country.
As far as this next cycle. Or-
That was, I brought it, so I can tell you.
Okay.
It was an ordinance, it's ordinance number 482. That was done in 2016.
Okay.
So
We've locked ourselves in, in other words.
that's up to you guys.
Unless we change the ordinance.
Did you wanna add anything?
Yeah, I want to raise.
You want to raise?
You just have to change the ordinance, but that's up to you guys.
Change the ordinance for which one?
Right now, it's the ordinance
I'd rather not.
number 482.
For city council and.
This is my copy that I keep with my payroll, so I make sure I get you guys right, but I can give you a copy.
Yeah, it's 500 weekly.
Hey Jill, they should all have a copy. It was part of the request that went out last week.
There you
Yes,
go.
we have.
Yeah, we
a
do.
copy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for the
Jack.
hard work, by the way, Jack.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Jack keeps me in order.
Any other questions?
Well, I think I've better ask the same question about parks as I did police. You said, as you look at it, what's your overall goal in trying to deal with the parks and recreation?
Well, so the overall goal with parks is to at least maintain what we have and still continue to beautify it. The issue we run into with parks is manpower. And if we don't do any projects at all, we probably have enough manpower to maintain what we have, but that's mow, trim, blow, fertilize, irrigate, and that's it. So, you know, if we were to do things 100% just with mow, blow, trim, fertilize, and irrigation, then we don't have any time for projects. So now combining both departments gives us a different avenue, right? Because now we have more staff that we can pull off if we need to and get some things done. So that does open some doors for us there. You know, I've thought we talked about a park committee in my office that day, and I personally think it's a great idea. I'd like to see what people want, and that's one reason I stopped your wife in the parking lot, not knowing it was your wife. But you know, I've worked in this city for years. I don't live here. You guys live here. What do you think? You know, and they were kind of honestly wide-eyed, like, are you serious? You want an opinion? And more of that would be good, because there's a lot of stress that lies on us as staff to make sure we're doing what residents want to see, and we don't necessarily know what that is all the time. So
Grover wants to head up that committee.
perfect.
He-
Love working with Grover.
He did.
You should.
Yeah.
Find
So
out that there's somebody that's overqualified sitting around here. Thanks, Greg.
so that's where it's kind of at with parks. Maintain what we have, but continue to get better and better and better. Recreation wise, we need more places to play baseball and softball.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, what's the acreage of our parks?
43 acres, I think.
Well, maybe,
But that's not all playable turf, right? That includes storm basins and.
I think it's actually, I looked at it, it was about 78 acres with
Or maybe it
storm
was something
retention
else I was looking
ponds
at.
That's
and
what,
parks.
that's what
Okay.
you came up with on the.
Yeah, and that does not include what we have said we would do when they did the cluster subdivision down below the hill. The city said, okay, we'll take part of that as open space, so that acreage isn't included, because that's been deeded to us. And then the one by Dixon Creek, that's out there for 2030, that hasn't been deeded to us. So those acreages we don't have in that total
And then
number.
we've got the one that's up on Washington Boulevard, where the old public works is. So
Yeah, that's a
That's
Dixon
Dixon
Creek,
Creek.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't know names. I just know where they are.
That's by your neighborhood.
Jill, can you go back to the summary page?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, when we're looking at it all, we're $500,000 in the hole. Is that what we're saying?
Between
We're
projected revenue and-
anticipating expending that much more than what we would come in, yes.
So as a city council, you got a decision to make. Are you gonna keep with the budget that they have? Are you gonna cut the budget? But as it sits like that, then you have to go through truth and taxation, right?
I think the past ordinances were doing that anyway.
I know, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, I want to throw my hat in the ring on this too, because I think we need to do it across the board, and that's what our city employees are doing. Because, yeah, I understand this part of the game plan of matching the budget, but at the same time, how many hats do each of these individuals wear that they're already out doing what they were even for a job description doing? And I think that has to be part of the equation that sits on the table. Because you cut budget, who's gonna do those jobs? And I think that's an important realistic thing that needs to be looked at. I'm not saying it's always the best, but I do think that has to be part of the equation in the formula. You've got every part of that here is working and trying to maintain, again, with a growing city. Okay, how do we balance the budget? And the one thing I don't wanna do is go back in a hole. I do not wanna slide backwards. I understand why we have to balance budget, Roger. I'm not opposed to that. But at the same time, we have some real concerns as we look forward that we have to address. And, and yeah, is it property taxes? That's one way. Is it sales tax? That's another way. You talk about business. I don't think that's in the ballpark. That's such a long-range plan that you don't see any yields during my lifetime. But,
yeah, but I think really too is you
does
also
that make
gotta.
sense what I'm talking about here?
It does, but at the end of the day, in the last meetings, the last truth and taxation meeting, every time we get them, the only thing we ever got a comment back on was, well, it's for wages and benefits for all employees.
But that's
And I
not-
get that we're trying to be competitive, but at the end of the day, residents feel like we've been taxed to death. Like taxed to death. And I'll speak out for my own self is, when you go from 1 year paying $230 to well over $700 to the city, not counting all the other taxes that you got raised, it gets off. And so I'm good. I can justify exactly why we have to spend this much money to be, 4% higher than what we were supposed to be, if what money we have coming in. And I get it, if you're a business, what do? You start cutting. That's what you do. And in a city, everybody will start complaining if you cut it. Because we're not getting this, we're not getting that, but then they're gonna complain when they have to pay more taxes too. So, but all I'm saying is, as a city council, you have to look at it and go, how do you look at it as a whole, and is there areas where we need to look at trimming?
So some of the things that are here though, that, I don't think we're ready to make any decisions on
No,
taking
you're
that.
not, and that's why you got from now.
'Cause those
to
ones that
March.
are the red, as I understood, Jill,
The
that you
revenues
said,
aren't.
those
as
revenues
high.
aren't yet solidified, because there's intergovernmental revenue would be some of the grants that we don't know anything. We don't, there's some things that are still unknown, and I get what you're saying, that, well, we've gotta be prepared and watch that, but I think right now, we don't know. We don't know.
I get it.
Can I make a suggestion? Is, if rather than cut, why don't you go back and say, okay, department heads, tell me what your priorities are, and see if we can be creative.
That's fine
And see
too.
what they can do.
I just throw it out there
That's what
because
they're in
I
there for
feel
all
like,
the time.
as the
But I'm
mayor,
not saying that anything
I
can
want
change.
you guys as
It
city
just
council to
depends.
know, because at the end of the day, it's your call, right? It's not my call, it's your call, and I want you to be as educated as you can going into it to say, here's where it's at. Jason, you brought up some very good points. Maybe you'll get the extra money coming out of there, but maybe you won't. Come April, and you start to get closer where you have to solidify the budget so that we can have an approval. Are we gonna be prepared to answer to the citizens what we have to do?
Do you know even an idea of potential, even though it can't be guaranteed? Do you know of even potential on those ones that are in the red, on the revenue side that you were talking about?
We have
Might be available.
one officer that is a COPS grant. That would be the only one I can guarantee.
Okay.
One nice thing with the truth and taxation is it gives us a little bit extra time to make sure our numbers are pretty dang solid. Whether or not you guys do that or not, that's up to you guys. That's why they wanted to do that ordinance, to have that, look at and have that discussion. But again, that's, if you
That
guys wanna
doesn't
change
mean
that.
we raise it, just means we
You change
go
it.
through it.
Well, and last year, we raised it, or at least tried to maintain, and the state gave it, the state took it away, because we didn't qualify.
So,
And so we already were $50,000 down.
on the taxes projection, we really don't know that yet because of whatever is new on the assessment rolls for last year, this year, we don't know what that amount is yet, do we?
So sales tax,
I look at mainly at property tax
property tax,
with new constructions and that.
we just straight across, cause I have no clue yet.
Yeah, I said we wouldn't know.
I won't know until closer to that time.
Because a lot of the buildings now built weren't even platted last year to be a property tax
Correct.
assessment. And even now, sometimes our policy, at least the one it looks like I can see, is we'll approve something, they'll construct roads and that, and they still won't record a subdivision plat, so it's not being taxed as an approved property still as it was prior. So in some way, we hurt ourselves by not saying, okay, you get your project approved, you start construction, you've got a subdivision already recorded. Don't wait to get everything in and then record it, because that might be a year later before you ever see any property tax from it, because the assessor goes out the first year, this is what it is now.
See, that was one of the big discussions I remember I've had with Kevin Garris back before on what is actually being taxed.
Yeah, because if we don't record it as a subdivision and they're building the roads and everything else, the county says, well, what do I have as a recorded thing? If it's not a subdivision yet, they're not gonna tax it based on lots and things like that.
I don't
Next
think they
year
do
is tax.
property tax till there's a house on it, do they?
No, they'll do it as, once you have a lot set aside, they've got now property units to tax. But they'll base that on what they have at the first of the year.
Well, somebody has to own it
It's
too,
as of
yeah.
January 1, isn't it,
Yeah.
something like that? So supposedly they come up with a magic formula that's supposed to incorporate that in, and I don't understand it.
Yeah.
At first sight. But I know it was part of the market, part of the heat contention last year. And so that's the other part of the equation here. We really don't know the magic numbers until.
That's what I just wanted to find out, we really don't have any
No.
on that yet. Okay.
These are just projections.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hopefully we get them.
So,
Cost of living.
so just talking a little bit about if, because you know, there are a lot of other places that have changed the sales tax. And, you know, the benefits of the sales tax is, it's less apparent to so many people than property tax. Property tax feels like, well,
Yeah.
a gut punch for many people, and we have, I mean, the nice thing about having a place like Walmart being here in our city is we have so many more people who come in and buy from our city, that it would benefit us a lot.
Amazon.
I'm a big contributor to I will be honest.
Well, we still get a portion of that too.
Yes, to an extent.
To an extent, yeah.
But it's even to an extent with Walmart, right?
Yeah.
We
So
don't
how
get 100%
sales tax
of Walmart.
works is,
We don't get 100% of the city's allotted
Right.
amount
we get
from Walmart.
a percentage of Harrisville, but everything within Weaver County gets distributed to the cities.
Based on the
So for
population,
example,
based
we
on-
have Walmart, we have all this, you know, but then you have Far West, Pleasant View doesn't have tons compared to us, but they get some, Riverdale shares a lot of their sales tax. So we get quite a bit, it's just based on, population and then what you have in your city.
Well, if there's no more questions, it's my past my bedtime.
No, I'm tired.
It's your meeting.
Okay. Can we, have a vote to adjourn?
Actually, I read in the policy,
We don't
so
have
you
to.
don't have to, you have to have I don't think you even have to have a motion to adjourn, but the mayor can call the meeting.
I'm done.
Is this a work session?
I'm done.
So, that's according to what